levels, and they're being killed at levels that we haven't seen since the Second World War. And it's every week. A lot of drone fighting. It's a whole new form of warfare, and it's violent and vicious. And so that's it. I'd like to go back to China just for a second. They're very heavy on the fentanyl. We're charging them, as you know, 20% for the fact that they send fentanyl into our country. And they've agreed that they're going to stop that. And, you know, they'll be rewarded by not having to pay, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. So the fentanyl should stop. It comes from China. It's amazing. And comes through our southern border, comes through our northern border too, comes through Canada, and comes through our southern border, much more through the southern border. But so that's a very important subject to me, because everybody in this room has lost friends or people that have family members that have died of fentanyl. So there's a big incentive for China to stop, and I take them at their word. They're going to work on that, I think, very hard. And one thing, when they work on something, they get it done. So now I'm about to depart on a historic visit. Some of you are going with us to, as I said, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and United Arab Emirates. Before I do, I'll sign one of the most consequential executive orders in our country's history. I don't think there's ever been anything signed like this, certainly not with respect to health care, nothing even close. I'm delighted to be joined on this occasion by Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is doing a really good job, I have to tell you that. CMS Administrator, a friend of mine, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who is an amazing guy. You know, I was telling Bobby before, Oz had a very successful show, but it hurt his reputation. Because when you're in show business, it hurts your reputation a little bit. It's good for you, but in terms of professionalism and being a doctor, it sort of hurts your reputation. This guy went to the best schools, was the best, I mean, top of the line. Then he did a television show, became a success, made a lot of money, all that stuff, but it sort of hurt him. And you know who I compare that to? I hate to say this, but a special woman, Jeanine Pirro. She was the toughest, smartest DA, maybe in our countries, in our cities and states history, New York. She was really tough, really sharp. Then she did a show, and people didn't think of her quite the same way. She became more of an entertainment person, like Oz. Oz is not an entertainer. He's not really an entertainer, if you know the real story. And she isn't either. She is unbelievable. She was one of the strongest district attorneys in the history of New York, highly respected, very tough, went after the drug dealers at a level that you don't see today anymore. And you know, hopefully she's given up a tremendous, she's leaving the #1 show on cable television, one of the #1 shows on television, period, The Five, but they've got great people left behind, but she was a big part of it. And so I equated to that. Jeanine Pirro is unbelievable. FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary, with a reputation that's second to none, and the job he's doing already has been fantastic. Thank you, Marty. And Director of National Institute of Health, Jay Bhattacharya, who has been, as you know, from Stanford, so highly regarded, and have all been working with us very hard on this. And the question they would ask, being a little bit new to the government aspect of it, is why doesn't somebody fight the drug price situation, meaning equalization? There's a term, it's called equalization. Nobody wants to mention that term. And I'm not knocking the drug companies. I'm really more knocking the countries than the drug companies, because they're forced to do things. But the drug lobby is the strongest lobby in this country, they say, the drug lobby. It's between that and lawyers. And they have a lot of power. But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care. Countries where they paid a small fraction of what, for the same drug, that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing, but they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal, brutal. And the drug companies actually told me stories. It was just brutal how they forced them. And European Union suing all our companies, Apple, Google, Meta. They're suing all of our companies. They end up, they have judges that are European Union-centric, and they get rewarded 15 billion, 17 billion, 20 billion, and they use that to run their operation. Not going to happen any longer, that I can tell you. So what's been happening is we've been subsidizing other countries throughout the world, not just in Europe, throughout the world. European Union was the most difficult, from what I understand. I mean, I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine who's a businessman, very, very, very top guy. Most of you would have heard of him. A highly neurotic, brilliant businessman, seriously overweight, and he takes the fat drug. And he called me up, and he said, President, he calls me, he used to call me Donald, now he calls me President, so that's nice respect. But he's a rough guy, smart guy, very successful, very rich. I wouldn't even know how we would know this, but because he's got comments. President, could I ask you a question? What? I'm in London, and I just paid for this damn fat drug I take. I said, it's not working. He said, I just paid $88. And in New York, I pay $1,300. What the hell is going on? He said, so I checked. And it's the same box, made in the same plant, by the same company. It's the identical pill that I buy in New York. And here I'm paying $88 in London. In New York, I'm paying $1,300. Now, this is a great businessman, but he's not familiar with this crazy situation that we have. But he was stunned. But it was just one of those stories. And I brought it up with the drug companies, represented by somebody who's very, very smart, good person, too. And we argued about it for about half hour. And then finally he just said, because they can't justify it, he just said, look, you got me. You got me. I can no longer they've been justifying this crap for years. They said, oh, it's research and development. Well, I said, well, research and development, other countries should pay research and development too. It's for their benefit. It was just one of those things. And the other countries would set a price, and they'd meet the price, and they'd say, if you don't meet the price, you can't sell it in our country. I said, well, then you walk away, and they'll call you back, and they'll sell it in the country. But now they'll have to do that. So for the first time in many years, we'll slash the cost of prescription drugs, and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down by much more, really, if you think 59. If you think of a drug that is sometimes 10 times more expensive, it's much more than the 59%. It depends on the way you want to analyze it, but in one way you could analyze it that way. But between 59 and 80, and I guess even 90%. So when I worked so hard in the first term, and if I got prices down, I remember I was the only one to ever get prices down for a full year, but I'd get them down like 2%, and I thought it was like a big deal. Well, we're getting them down 60, 70, 80, 90%, but actually more than that if you think about it in the way mathematically. And Pharma has to say, we're sorry, but we'll not be able to do this any longer to these countries that have been so tough. They've been very tough, nasty. It's trade. It's trade. And pharma is also very powerful. And the Democrats have protected pharma. The Democrats, this is the Democrats have protected pharma. These are the Democrats. And by the way, I just called the Speaker of the House, and I just called the leader, our leader in the Senate, John Thune, Mike Johnson. Spoke to both of them. I said, when you score, you're going to have to score two things. You're going to have to, number one, score that hundreds of billions of dollars of tariff money is coming in. But even bigger than that, you're going to have to score that your cost for Medicaid and Medicare and just basically pharmaceuticals and drugs is going down at a level that nobody has ever seen before. It'll pay for the Golden Dome. I see the Golden Dome is there, see? That'll easily pay for the Golden Dome, and we'll have a lot of money left over. We need the Golden Dome, by the way, in this world. Although this world's a lot safer today than it was a week ago, and a lot safer than it was 6 months ago. We had people that had no clue what they were doing. So today, Americans spend 70% more for prescription drugs than we spent in the year 2000. Think of that. Our country has the highest drug prices anywhere in the world by sometimes a factor of 5, 6, 7, 8 times. It's not like they're slightly higher. They're 6, 7, 8 times. There are even cases of 10 times higher. So that you go 10 times more expensive for the same drug, that's big numbers. Even though the United States is home to only 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. So think of that. With 4% of the population, the pharmaceutical companies make most of their money, most of their profits from America. That's not a good thing. Now, I think, by the way, I have great respect for these companies and for the people that run them. I really do. And I think they did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people for many years that this was a fair system. And nobody really understood why, but I figured it out. For years, pharmaceutical and drug companies have said that research and development costs were what they are, and for no reason whatsoever, they had to be borne by America alone. Not anymore, they don't. This means American patients were effectively subsidizing socialist healthcare systems in Germany, in all parts of the European Union. They were the toughest of all. They were nasty. And I see that. I see that with trade, too. European Union is in many ways nastier than China, okay? And we've just started with them. Oh, they'll come down a lot. You watch. We have all the cards. They treated us very unfairly. They sell us 13 million cars. We sell them none. They sell us their agricultural products. We sell them virtually none. They don't take our products. That gives us all the cards, and very unfair. So they're going to have to pay more for health care, and we're going to have to pay less. That's all it is. And believe it or not, you know, because it's really the world we're talking about, not just the European Union, but because it's the world, the numbers are for the healthcare company not as bad as you would think. They'll make the same. I think the healthcare companies should make pretty much the same money. I really don't believe they should be affected very much, because it's just a redistribution of wealth. It's a redistribution where it could be the same top line, but it's going to be distributed differently. Europe's going to have to pay a little bit more. The rest of the world's going to have to pay a little bit more, and America's going to pay a lot less. Again, because it's a much smaller population than when you think of the whole world. So basically what we're doing is equalizing. There's a new word that I came up with, which I think is probably the best word. We're going to equalize, where we're all going to pay the same. We're going to pay what Europe's going to pay. We're going to all pay. Now, there may be some countries in dire need, and I would be willing to sacrifice that, but and help them. But it's called most favored nation. We are going to pay the lowest price there is in the world. We will get whoever is paying the lowest price. That's the price that we're going to get. So remember that. So we're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. Whoever is paying the lowest price, we will look at that price and we will say that's the price we're going to pay. Most favored nations, that's what it is. One breast cancer drug costs Americans over $16,000 per bottle, but the same drug from the same factory, manufactured by the same company, is 1/6 that price in Australia and 1/10 that price in Sweden. 1/10 for the identical product. A common asthma drug costs almost $500 here in America, but costs less than $40 in the United Kingdom. So $40 in the United Kingdom, which is where this gentleman told me he paid a small amount for his shot. But think of that. So $40 versus $500 here. That's not even bad. There are much worse examples. And the weight loss drug, Ozempic, costs 10 times more in the United States than in the rest of the developed world. 10 times more. Why? Why? What did we do? Suckers. But we never had a president that had the courage to do this. And nobody knew the system like I do. I mean, I've gotten to know this system so well. And I don't think it's fair that it benefits Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. It's not a good health care. It works. I made it work. I had an obligation to make it work, or an obligation to let it die. I chose that we had to make it work. I had to make it as good as possible. And I had a choice. I could have let it fail or make it as good as possible. As good as possible means it was still not very good, but it survived. And we did the right thing. But this makes everything work. And I don't want to have a bad form of health care work because of the fact I was able to cut drug prices by 80 or 90%. So we're going to maybe come up with something. I think this gives the Republicans a chance to actually do a health care that's much better than Obamacare and for less money, which if you guys would work on that along with Congress. But I do want to say that Democrats could have done this a long time ago. They have fought like hell for the drug companies, and they knew they were doing the wrong thing. And it's going to be very hard. I was just telling the leader and the speaker that it's going to be very hard for the Democrats to vote against the one big, beautiful deal. The greatest tax cuts in history, greatest everything, but now you have the big drug prices because that's going to be included. It makes that whole situation different from a scoring standpoint. I just told them, I called them up about this. I said, I'm going to do something that's going to be very monumental, and you're going to be scoring. You better tell your people that this is going to score really well, and then add hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs to your list also. But as big as the tariffs are, this is something that really hits quickly. 5 years ago, I signed an executive order to confront this disaster, but only confront it in a minor way. It was a good confrontation, but never to this extent. And it took people a little while to understand a very complicated system. But Joe Biden, without any knowledge of what he was doing, terminated the policy and then pretended to negotiate under a new system. And then you take a look, 5 out of the 10 drugs that he negotiated are now over 200% more expensive in America than the rest of the world, and far more expensive than when he even got involved. Much more expensive than when he got involved. Joe Biden's plan was as you know, because you wrote about it, you don't say it very loudly, but it was a very big failure, was his whole presidency. First, I'm directing the U.S. trade representatives and Department of Commerce to begin investigations into foreign nations that extort drug companies by blocking their products unless they accept bottom line and very low dollar amounts for their product, unfairly shifting the cost burden onto American patients. And we'll be taking a look at that very strongly. The biggest thing we're going to do is we're going to tell those countries, like those represented by the European Union, that, you know, that game is up, sorry. And if they want to get cute, then they don't have to sell cars into the United States anymore. It's a very big subject. And they won't get cute, because I'll defend the drug companies from that standpoint. They were given a price by the European unions and other countries. This is what you do. This is what we're going to pay. We're not going to pay any more. Let America pay the difference, because there was a big shortfall. Let America pay it. And that's what we did, but we're not doing it anymore. Next, my administration will secure what we're calling most favored nations drug pricing. The principle is simple. Whatever the lowest price paid for a drug in other developed countries, that is the price that Americans will pay. And we're using the term other developed countries because there are some countries that need some additional help, and that's fine. I think that's very good. Some prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices will be reduced almost immediately by 50 to 80 to 90%. Big Pharma will either abide by this principle voluntarily or will use the power of the federal government to ensure that we are paying the same price as other countries. To accelerate these price restrictions and reductions, my administration will also cut out the middlemen. We're going to totally cut out the famous middlemen. Nobody knows who they are, middlemen. I've been hearing the term for 25 years, middlemen. I don't know who they are, but they're rich. That I can tell you. We're going to cut out the middlemen and facilitate the direct sale of drugs at the most favored nation price directly to the American citizen. So we're cutting out, Bobby, the middlemen. It's so important, right? They got to do that. They're worse than the drug companies. They don't even make a product, and they make a fortune. It's very smart business people, that I can tell you. If companies make no significant progress toward most favored nation pricing, which we will insist that they do, so I think I'm wasting time talking about it. We're going to insist upon it. And we'll insist, and we're going to help the drug companies with the other nations, because those other nations do a lot of trading with us. They need our trade, just like China needed us very badly. They need us just as badly. We will do whatever we have to with trade, just like we did some great things with trade with India and Pakistan. It really helped the situation, very heated situation. Could have lost millions of people, more than millions, I mean, many millions of people. And they want to do business with America, but we never used our powers that way. We never knew how. We never had people that knew how to do that. We'll also open up America's market to safe and legal imports of affordable drugs from other countries, putting dramatic downward pressure on prices. And if necessary, we'll investigate the drug companies, and we'll, in particular, investigate the countries that are doing this, and we will add it onto the price that we charge them for doing business in America. In other words, we'll add it onto tariffs if they don't do what is right, which is everybody should equalize. Everybody should pay the same price. And special interests may not like this very much, but the American people will. I am doing this for the American people. I'm doing this against the most powerful lobby in the world, probably the drug lobby, drug and pharmaceutical lobby. But it's one of the most important orders, I think, that's ever been signed, certainly with regard to health care or health in the history of our country, and it's an honor to be a part of it. And I'd like to ask Robert F. Kennedy to say a few words, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an extraordinary day. This is an issue that, I grew up in the Democratic Party, and every major Democratic leader for 20 years has been making this promise to the American people. This was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders.
Very good afternoon to you. Welcome to a slightly delayed beginning to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News. That's Bobby Kennedy at the White House, and shortly, of course, a while ago there, Donald Trump addressing the world shortly before he embarks on a trip to Saudi Arabia. The topic was pharma, big pharma, an executive order being signed to dramatically slash the price of pharmaceuticals in America. Donald Trump saying quite clearly this has to stop. We're suckers. We're being ripped off. He said drug prices up to 10 times higher in the United States than anywhere else in the world. 2/3 of all pharmaceutical profits are made in America, despite the fact only 4% of the world's population, putting an end to the rip-off. He said countries can take it the nice way or they can take it the tough way. He said the European Union were the worst to try and complain. They're the worst. They're worse than China. He said, wow, a trade deal has come in. What does that mean for Ireland? Think of all those American pharma companies there. What does that mean for pharmaceutical prices on the NHS? Enjoyed cheap pharmaceuticals for a long time. We'll come back to that, but let's get back now to domestic politics. If you want to keep up, though, today with that Donald Trump speech, you can, of course, scan the QR code on your screen right now to watch the rest of that speech. Now, later in today's show, we're expecting to hear from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, in the House of Commons on Labour's immigration crackdown. We'll bring you that live as it happens. We believe around about 5 p.m. this afternoon. And the proposal includes a 10-year citizenship way to crack down on foreign care workers and a requirement to have a degree. Well, let's remind ourselves what Sir Keir Starmer had to say a little bit earlier on today.
One-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
But here's the big question. Is the Prime Minister telling us what he truly believes, or is he telling us what he believes he has to say in order to cling on to power? Because let's not forget, just a few months after being elected as an MP for Holborn and St Pancras in September 2015, Keir Starmer tweeted that this government petition entitled "Accept More Asylum Seekers and Increase Support for Refugee Migrants in the UK." And of course, in January 2020, when he was the shadow Brexit secretary, remember he was trying to cancel Brexit for 3 years, when he made the case for the benefits of migration.
Make the wider case on immigration. We welcome migrants. We don't scapegoat them. Low wages, poor housing, poor public services are not the fault of migrants and people who've come here. They're political failure. Political failure. So we have to make the case for the benefits of migration, the benefits of free movement.
Yeah, the precise opposite of what he said this morning. Lest we forget, in February 2020, more than 60 Labour MPs and peers, including then leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, signed an open letter demanding a deportation flight of 50 Jamaican criminals, including paedophiles, murderers, drug dealers and violent thugs, remained on the ground. And it did. And there you go. Among those who signed the letter was, you guessed it, Sir Keir Starmer. And even in November 2022, he said the Labour Party would never diminish the contribution made by migrants.
Migration is part of our national story. Always has been, always will be. And the Labour Party will never diminish the contribution it makes to our economy, to public services, to your businesses.
So there we go. Once again, more positions than the Kama Sutra. Here's the big question. Do we really trust the Labour government to sort out the migration chaos, or are they simply taking the lead of the political wind led by Reform Party in the last week's elections? Well, joining me now in the studio is GB News' political editor Chris Hope, GB News' home and security editor Mark White, the two heavyweights, and the columnist Sam, I meant that in a nice way, and the columnist Sam Ashworth-Hayes, and the head of campaigns at the Good Growth Foundation, Teresa Bischoff. Welcome to the studio, one and all. Chris, I'm going to start with you. You were there this morning at the press conference. You asked an excellent question, as you always do. I thought you got the PM right between the eyes. Quite simply, the cards are on the table, but we've heard this all before. How many tough-talking migration briefings have you been to? More than you probably had hot dinners on your holiday in Greece last week. The fact of the matter is, the cards are on the table. Have they got any aces up their sleeves, or are they just a pack of jokers?
Well, that's right, Martin. Great to see you again. I've been away for a week, of course. Fascinating what they're saying there. The language coming out from Sir Keir Starmer today, so different from that individual you saw on that package you put together there, saying that we're a nation here we're becoming an island of strangers, saying that forces are slowly pulling the country apart. Language that Starmer would have said, that's reform, that's not where I am. Well, that's where he is, certainly. Whether that's been driven by that reform, big reform win in the week last Thursday in the local elections or not, but they've worked on this immigration white paper for a long time. Mark White knows the detail on that, but the language for me is pure, written in response to the election, big election result there for Reform UK. But I did ask the PM at this press conference this morning during breakfast time, why do we think he can do better than the Tories? And here's what he told us.
So, GB News. Prime Minister, we've been here before, haven't we? There have been 3 immigration acts since 2014. The Immigration Act in 2014 and 2016 both aimed to reduce immigration. They both failed. Why on earth should GB News viewers think you're going to succeed? And why not give us a promise right now? Why give us a fixed target right now, not a promise, so we can judge you on success? The Tories at least did that, but they failed.
Well, look, the difference here, this is the most comprehensive plan that has been put forward. It's been forward to end the Tory sort of open borders experiment that we have had. You're right about that. And it looks at all routes and it's comprehensive. And it does the hard yards of linking skills and business to what we need to do with the economy. So it's not a narrow look just at the numbers. It puts them in their proper context. On the question, which we do want to significantly reduce migration, I'm absolutely making clear that's what it will do, and that if we need to go further, we will. So that's the promise I make to your viewers. I don't think it's sensible to put a hard-edged cap on it. That has been done in one form or another for the best part of 10 years by different prime ministers. The only thing that links those prime ministers and the various caps or quotas or limits they put in place is every single one of them failed. And therefore, going down the failed route is not a sensible way for me. As with everything that I do, serious, pragmatic, looking at the things that will actually make a material difference.
So no cap there from Sir Keir Starmer, but the language is so, Martin, like what Nigel Farage would say. And earlier I caught up with Mr Farage outside Parliament and asked him how he felt, frankly, having Labour assume the language of reform.
Starmer has spent his whole career campaigning for free movement of people, wholly unconcerned about this subject, so much so that their massive parliamentary majority was gained without immigration even being one of their five main priorities. Now, of course, he knows that amongst the great British public, this issue rates even higher than the health service, and he's just basically playing catch-up with reform. Now, I mean, many of the things he said are the same things I've been saying for over 20 years, and that's Starmer's problem. Insincerity. What does this man actually believe in other than trying to keep power?
It was interesting, Martin, hearing Sir Keir Starmer use the term take back control 5 times in that speech. The language, of course, the Brexit referendum. I talked to Jo White an hour ago. She, of course, chairs the Red Wall caucus, 47 Labour MPs, and she gave a number. I said, what figure do you think is appropriate to be net migrants coming here in 2029? She said 100,000. Now, I pressed that point importantly and closely with Yvette Cooper in an interview around lunchtime. Here's what she told GB News.
Will be on net migration by the end of the Parliament, below 500,000 a year?
Well, we're clear it needs to be substantially down. So that's certainly the case.
Is that where you'll be, 500,000?
No, it needs to be substantially down.
So below that?
It needs to be substantially down. So we absolutely needs to be substantially down. I mean, you've heard, I think, your first question shows we have had a whole series of targets that the Tories set out previously. Yeah. None of them were met. In fact, they often did the opposite. So I think that just undermined the credibility of the whole system. So that's why we are taking a different approach to this. The way we're doing things is setting out step by step the action that we'll take. Exactly. People will be able to see the consequences, they'll be able to see the progress that we're making, but we'll do that step by step rather than just going for rhetoric and saying things that nobody's going to believe.
I say 500,000 and you didn't deny that.
It's going to be substantially down.
Below that?
It needs to be substantially down.
There we are, flailing to get a figure. They said 500,000 and then it was substantially down. But I think that's not really going to be enough, I think, to satisfy the Red Wall Labour MPs. They're saying 100,000 a year to us at GB News today, Martin.
Got to say, Chris Hope, a masterclass in attempting to herd cats today. You tried your very, very best to get answers. You tried your very, very best to get firm figures. You didn't get them. Great work. Later in the show, I'll be joined by somebody who has been through Labour's plans. He's going to tell me, Rob Bates from the Centre for Migration Control, while there's not a hope in hell of that kind of a target being hit anytime soon. Mark White. Illegal immigration wasn't even mentioned in any of this. And meanwhile, during the actual speech that Sir Keir Starmer was giving, the boats continued to roll ashore.
Yeah, and I mean, Keir Starmer might argue that this announcement today was all about legal migration. But the fact is, our audience, the public right across the country, don't make that distinction. They just see too many people coming into the UK, and of course the small boats is the most highly visible manifestation of that migrant crisis. And you're right, today, again, what we had were multiple boats that were launched because of improving weather in the Channel. Every time the wind dies down, the boats come across, despite the avowed aim of this government to smash the criminal gangs. Demonstrably, it's not happening. Those images you're seeing there are just some of the migrants heading across. It was 400 at the beginning of the afternoon. I can now tell you that we have reached 600 migrants who have crossed today, and our producer down in Kent, Chris, has just been on to tell me that another small boat has left the beaches of northern France en route here. So we could be pushing up towards a record day by the end of today, which is 700 odd for the year so far.
So much more to analyse. Still haven't spoken yet with Sam Ashworth-Hayes, Theresa Bishop, please stick with us, and yourself, Mark White. And Chris, I think you've got to go to lobby to try and get some more answers out of Parliament. Stick around, please don't go anywhere. There's still to come lots more between now and 4 o'clock, including we'll continue to discuss the latest on Labour's immigration crackdown.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours. Thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing. But with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually, it's going to be a fine outlook.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. There's significant congestion on the M1 southbound between junctions 32 and 31 near Rotherham, with 15-minute delays expected until 4 this afternoon. In Derby, heavy traffic on the A38 northbound between the A516 and the A5111 is causing 10-minute delays until shortly before 4. In Buckinghamshire, the M40 southbound between junctions 6 and 5 is blocked due to an overturned vehicle, so alternate routes are advised. And on the trains, Elizabeth Line services are facing disruptions. Additionally, there is disruption between Derby and Nottingham on cross-country services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:39 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, later in the show, we're expecting to hear from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, in the House of Commons on Labour's immigration crackdown announced earlier on this morning. We're bringing that live as it happens. But in the meantime, I'm still joined in the studio by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White, the columnist at The Telegraph, Sam Ashworth-Hayes, and the head of campaigns at the Good Growth Foundation, Teresa Bishop. Welcome to the studio, guys. Mark, before the break, we were talking about the fact that, despite the fact that the great crackdown began today, 600 illegals still rocked up ashore, and you've got some more footage of the best in the business, the brazen nature of how they rock ashore. Talk us through your footage.
Well, it's all about really the way in which the people smugglers incentivise the migrants by giving them a discount on the ticket price for their crossing if they take these natty little videos to show just how easy it is. Take a look at this one. So you can see there, the 12th of May, right today as they were heading on that small boat to come across to the UK, and you saw the boat up ahead being carried aloft. And they carry it for a fair distance. We have invested £500 million with the French over the last few years to increase their security there. They're supposed to have drones and airplanes and other means of detecting these boats before they launch, but the vast majority get to the water.
OK, thank you very much. We will get to Sam and Theresa, I promise you, but we are now going back to the White House. Donald Trump is speaking again.
It would go directly to the library after I leave office. I wouldn't be using it, no.
Mr. President, on the hostage, you said that the release of the American hostage, Aaron Alexander, is a step in good faith to end this war. Do you expect any progress, perhaps announcement on ceasefire during your trip to the Middle East?
We hope that we're going to have other hostages released too, as you know. So when I met with the hostages 3 weeks ago that were there for quite a while, you remember the 10 people that came in, mostly young people, 1 or 2 were a little bit older. They were explaining the trials and tribulations. I mean, they went through hell. And I said, how many are there? They said 59. I said, that's a lot. I didn't realize, because we got a lot out. You know, we got a lot of hostages out, I think you will acknowledge. They said 59, but then they said, they followed that up by saying 59, of which 24 are living, the rest are dead. But the people whose son, mostly son, I think 1 daughter in this case, but mostly sons are there, or husbands are there, those people want the dead bodies as much as they want the live body. I have a mother that calls me, but came up to me when I first met. She said, sir, please get my son out. He's dead, but they have his body. And I asked her about that, and it's as though he were alive. The level of wanting that body back is the same. It couldn't be any more, as though he were alive. So, you know, getting the bodies back is very important. That could be a thing having to do with the religion. It could be same. I was amazed at the level of importance. It's the same as if the son or husband or whatever was alive. So they said 59. In fact, they came in with a number 59 written out on like a sign on their chest. But they came to thank me for getting them out. And I said, what does the 59 mean? They said, well, that means there are 59 people. But then they said, but 24 are living. Now it's 21. The number's 21. So now it's actually, we'll get Etan today. We think we're getting him today. So it's 20. So they have 20 live hostages there. The rest are dead bodies.
Mr. President, are you open to negotiating your tariffs on cars, steel, and aluminum with China or any other country?
Well, we're not even talking about that. We're bringing the car business back into this country. We have commitments, and not only commitments, they've already started construction on many plants. They've left Mexico in a few cases. In a few cases, they've left Canada. They're not going to build in Canada. They're going to build here because we have the market, and the tariffs have been amazing. The election and the tariffs. November 5th was a big day, and on top of that, of course, you wouldn't have the tariffs without the election, I guess, if you look at it. But we have at least 11 committed massive car factories that are going to be built, that are in the process of being built. And some are going through, some have actually started. We also have renovations of existing factories where they weren't utilizing the full factory from years gone by, and now they're under full renovation. They'll be opening up full factories in a very short period of time. Our car industry, I think we're going to have the #1 industry. You know, if you look at Japan and these others, they do tremendously with cars, and they can do that too. But you know, if they want to sell cars in the United States, they're going to have to build factories in the United States, because I'm interested in cars for the United States. Now, one other thing is, in our tax bill, we're giving not only no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, but also we're going to get a deduction for people that borrow money to buy a car if it's made in America. If it's not, we have no interest.
Mr. President, a meeting between President Putin as well as President Zelensky. If President Putin doesn't show up to these talks in person in Turkey, will you join Europe in putting higher sanctions on Russia?
If I felt it would be important toward getting the deal done, I'm the one that insisted on the meeting. They couldn't get a meeting because one said ceasefire, one said no ceasefire, was going back and forth. I said, look, at this point, we got to stop it. Just go to the meeting. The meeting's been set. Go to the meeting on Thursday. And if I thought it would be helpful, I don't know where I'm going to be at that particular point. I'll be someplace in the Middle East, but I would fly there if I thought it would be helpful. Yeah, please.
Refugees. I want to ask you about South African refugees. Dozens of Afrikaners who claim discrimination in their home country are heading to the United States, where your administration is going to welcome them as refugees. Now, this comes as you've halted virtually all refugee admissions for people fleeing famine and war from countries like Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. Now, South Africa leadership is coming to see me, I understand, sometime next week. And, you know, we're supposed to have I guess a G20 meeting there or something, but we're having a G20 meeting. I don't know how we can go unless that situation's taken care of, but it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa, and the newspapers and the media, television media doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place. So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you. Are you letting China off the hook for these 90 days, and do you really believe that they will follow through with non-tariff barriers and remove those?
Non-monetary tariffs, yeah. Yeah, I think they're going to follow through. I think they want it very badly. I think they want the deal very badly. Again, this doesn't include the steel tariffs that I put on a long time ago that Biden tried to get off, but he couldn't get them off because it was too much money. You know, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, what a lot of people don't know, but we put on the tariffs originally. And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't have a steel industry today. Now we have a thriving steel industry. It'll be thriving much more with what we're doing because this is the next level. But it doesn't include that, doesn't include cars, doesn't include pharmaceuticals when we do that. And the reason we're doing that will be to get them to come back in the country. You know, there are, again, I always say it because a lot of people forget, but if a company like Eli Lilly, which is making a massive investment in the United States right now. They're building many, many plants. They've already started like 7 of them, many plants, but they are not going to be tariffed. There's no tariff cost. So they're all doing that. They're all coming back to the United States. I mean, I'll tell you what, I hope I get the benefit of watching this because, as president, because, you know, it takes a little while to do this stuff. And we're doing it early in the administration. If you think of it, we have, I believe, if you look at the real total, it's over $10 trillion committed for plants and factories. Other administrations haven't had $1 trillion over a 4-year period, even over an 8-year period. We have over $10 trillion committed in one form or the other over 2 months. Give me a break. I'm here to hear 3, but let's give me a break on the first month. We want to get acclimated. But, you know, but if you think about it, it's really 2 months. And so in 2 months, we have an investment already of over $10 trillion. And other presidents haven't had that done over a year, over 4 years in some cases. It's unprecedented. There's never been anything like it. It's a very exciting time in America. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
I'll sign that. Mr. President, are you ready to impose sanctions on Russia?
Okay, and that was Donald Trump again. Looks at that press conference just now. finally drawing to a close there at the White House, of course, ahead of a trip to Saudi Arabia. Just about to sit down and sign that executive order. You can see those impressive documents with that manuscript of a signature from Donald Trump. This is to lower the prices of American pharmaceuticals. The president earlier on saying 2/3 of the global profits of big pharma in America, despite the fact only 4% of the population is there. That was Donald Trump. Let's get back now to some domestic politics. Back here in the studio, still joined by Homeland Security Editor Mark White and the columnist at The Telegraph, Sam Ashworth-Hayes, and the head of campaigns at the Good Growth Foundation, Teresa Bishop. Teresa, I'm going to have to come to you first. You've been waiting so patiently all of this time. Part of the ethos of your work is the need for immigrants, good immigrants, skilled immigrants, to stimulate the economy. What are you hearing from the Prime Minister today that gives you cause for concern? There seems to be suddenly a rather Farage-esque wind in the Prime Minister's sails. Does that bother you?
So, I mean, what I would say is we look at what the public are thinking about immigration. I should start off by saying they do feel that there is a need for greater control when it comes to both legal and illegal immigration. So Starmer is going in the right direction for a big majority of the public. But, and this is key, Yvette Cooper yesterday talking about the need to boost productivity in the absence of immigrants. I would argue that is the case whether you do or don't let immigrants in. I think for the last 15 years, we've seen a productivity crisis, which has played a big part in our stagnant growth story. And the government is going to have to get really serious about boosting skills, helping businesses kind of educate people into the jobs that they want to do.
Because the problem is we've had an addiction to low-paid, low-skilled labour. This has been going on since way before Brexit. Time and time again, the public told the politicians to stop that. Nobody's got a problem with high-skilled, high-tax-paying immigrants. You know, South Africans, Americans, French. Now, we should be courting those kind of people from all around the world. This isn't about being anti-immigration. It's about the right skills, the right assets, the right productivity, and clamping down on those that are a net drain.
And this really is what the Good Growth Foundation is all about. It's about figuring out how growth can reach the public, because for the last couple of years, they feel that they've been sold lies, told fake promises, whether it's on growth, whether it's on the money that'll reach their pockets, or whether it's arbitrary targets that end up not being reached. The key is that people feel that they have more money, they feel that they have more opportunity, and at the moment, that's not the case.
OK, Teresa, thank you very much. And Sam, we will get to you in a moment, but we must go back now for live pictures at the White House, because Donald Trump is signing that executive order as we speak. That's the feed there. You can see that now. Customary, literally a signature, that unforgettable signature of Donald Trump there. This is the big pharma executive order promising to slash the prices of pharmaceuticals in America for Americans who've been ripped off for too long. He called them the suckers, American customers, the suckers of the world, slashing the prices of drugs and also ordering drug companies must return to the United States. Now, that could be a lot of food for thought for the Irish Premier. Don't forget how many of those big pharma companies in America are in Ireland. There is Donald Trump holding up that executive order at the White House, sending out a clear message. Cheaper drugs for America. What will that mean for the United Kingdom, though? We, meanwhile, benefit from cheap drugs here. Stick with us. Plenty more of analysis after this with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's news channel. But now it's your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two few spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing, but with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually, it's going to be a fine outlook.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24, sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M8 eastbound junction 18 exit slip to the A804 is closed for roadworks, with diversions in place. Please allow extra travel time. The M48 westbound bridge between Junction 1 at Ost and Junction 2 at Newhouse is shut for maintenance. In Tameside, an incident on the M60 clockwise at Junction 24 has closed one lane, causing 10-minute delays. Congestion is on the A38 northbound between junctions with the A50 and A511 in Derby. Expect delays. And on the trains, Elizabeth Line services are disrupted and there are no trains between Gospel Oak and Barking Riverside. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24, sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness. That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it.
Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Very good afternoon to you. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting for you live from the heart of Westminster and all across the UK.
One nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab.
Well, yes, earlier on today, Keir Starmer laid out his tough new immigration plan. But remember, in September 2020, he said this.
A wider case on immigration. We welcome migrants. We don't scapegoat them.
Well, what caused this radical change of plan, do you think? And do you believe a single word of it? And meanwhile, Labour's plans were slammed by Tory leader Kemi Badenoch.
It was astonishing listening to Keir Starmer's proposals. I think Labour are taking the public for fool.
And queuing up to put the boot in, Reform UK's Nigel Farage implied the Prime Minister's tough talk was too little, too late.
Starmer's problem, insincerity. What does this man actually believe in, other than trying to keep power?
Well, today's Keir Starmer's rhetoric was all tough talk. But what's the reality? On today's show, I'll be joined by an immigration expert who's put Labour's plans under intense scrutiny. And I'll reveal what he calls the pitifully low impact that Labour's proposed assault on net migration will have. Well, the show, it's a pleasure to have your company. Well, it was quite the change of position, wasn't it? As we've seen for many, many years, Sir Keir Starmer was all about open borders, all about youth mobility. In fact, he might still do that next Monday when he does the reset with the European Union. All about taking back control. Today, quite the transplant of personality. Has somebody hacked the Prime Minister's SIM card? Or is this actually a deep reset of British politics after what happened a week ago on Thursday? The political headwind is now so robust. Time after time after time, the British electorate demanded that the Prime Minister, the government of the time, took back control. It never happened. Are we at breaking point? Is this the moment where Sir Keir Starmer has to wake up and smell the coffee, or he'll sink in the political sea? Do you believe a single word he says? Do you think anybody can take back control of our borders? The Conservatives have 14 years to try. They didn't succeed. Why should it be any different now? Am I being cynical? Tell me what you think. Get in touch usual ways. GBNews.com/your say. Expert analysis coming up. But first, it's your headlines, and here's Katie Bone.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories at 4:03. The Home Secretary has vowed to slash at least 100,000 visas as Labour hints at a further migration crackdown. Yvette Cooper is due to speak shortly in the House of Commons to unveil the full details of the government's immigration white paper. The Prime Minister has promised a significant fall in net migration, saying without controls on immigration, we risk becoming an island of strangers. The proposal includes things like a 10-year citizenship wait and a crackdown on foreign care workers. The change from 5 to 10 years will come with exceptions for people who make a high contribution to the economy or society. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage accused Sir Keir Starmer of making promises he can't keep, while the Liberal Democrats say the government is right to take steps to fix the broken immigration system, but needs to make a clear plan to make it easier to recruit British workers instead. Speaking this morning, the Prime Minister promised net migration will fall significantly by the end of this Parliament.
Every area of the immigration system, work, family and study, will be tightened up so we have more control. Skill requirements raised to degree level. English language requirements across all routes, including for dependents. Now, make no mistake, this plan means migration will fall. That's a promise.
Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Labour can't be trusted to protect the UK borders.
It was astonishing listening to Keir Starmer's proposals. I think Labour are taking the public for fools. Many of the things he was announcing are things that they are voting against right now. We brought in salary thresholds when we were in government just before the election. The first thing Keir Starmer did in coming in was scrap them. So now he's saying that he's going to have a white paper to look at the same proposals he just scrapped later. Labour are taking us for fools.
Well, the Home Secretary told GB News' political editor Christopher Hope that rules need to be followed and respected.
Where people are coming to the UK, that they're contributing and speaking English, because we do need to have a fair system in place.
Down substantially by how much?
So already we're reducing the visas that we're issuing. That's already happening. Already we are increasing returns. Enforced returns are up over 20% since the election. And these measures go further. So, for example, some of the measures around the skilled worker visa, the care worker visa, the settlement rules and the English language rules, those together will mean a reduction of 100,000 fewer visas or fewer people arriving just as a result of those measures.
Well, all of that comes as GB News can reveal that more than 12,000 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel this year. One migrant died near Boulogne and 66 others were rescued as they tried to make the illegal journey overnight into today. An improvement in weather conditions over the weekend has led to a fresh surge in crossings. GB News can reveal that almost 500 small boat migrants have already made the illegal journey today. To the US, where speaking a short time ago, President Donald Trump said that he has achieved a total reset with China after the two countries agreed to slash tariffs on each other. The president said that China agreed to open up and that the country agreed to no more non-monetary barriers. The president also touched on the conflict in India and Pakistan, saying that trade was a big reason for why the two countries stopped fighting. President Trump went on to say that he will sign an executive order to lower drug prices, saying that the EU was most difficult on drug subsidies. He added that America will no longer tolerate profiteering from Big Pharma. Transport for London has suspended several tube lines this afternoon due to a power failure. Electrical supply issues are affecting the Elizabeth, Bakerloo, Jubilee and Northern lines, as well as the Overground's Suffragette line. A spokesman for TfL said that there was an outage in south-west London for a matter of minutes and everything shut down due to a national grid issue. They added that they are in the process of getting things back up and running again. And from today, trans women are to be banned from female toilets in the Scottish Parliament, following last month's landmark Supreme Court ruling that biological men cannot change their legal sex. Alison Johnston, the presiding officer, said access to Holyrood's toilets would be based on biological sex, but some existing lavatories will be designated as gender-neutral spaces. Equalities campaigners have warned that the decision will leave trans people excluded at the heart of Scotland's democracy. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now let's go back to Martin.
Thank you, Katie. Welcome to the show. Now, later on in today's show, we're expected to hear from the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, in the House of Commons on Labour's immigration crackdown. We believe that's around about 5 p.m, about an hour's time. And, of course, we'll cross that live as it happens. And today's proposals includes a 10-year citizenship way to crack down on foreign care workers and a requirement to have a degree. And let's remind ourselves of what Sir Keir Starmer had to say earlier on today.
One nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
Yeah, that's Sir Keir Starmer, taking back control. But is the Prime Minister really telling us what he truly believes, or is he telling us what he believes he has to say to cling on to power? Because let's not forget, it's just a few months after being elected as an MP for Holborn and St Pancras in September 2015, Keir Starmer tweeted this government petition entitled "Accept More Asylum Seekers and Increase Support for Refugee Migrants in the UK." And in January 2020, when he was the shadow Brexit secretary, remember, he campaigned for 3 years to cancel Brexit because freedom of movement was one of his true passions then. He made the case for the benefits of migration.
Make the wider case on immigration. We welcome migrants. We don't scapegoat them. Low wages, poor housing, poor public services are not the fault of migrants and people who've come here. They're political failure. Political failure. So we have to make the case for the benefits of migration, the benefits of free movement.
Quite the change of position, isn't it? And in February 2020, more than 60 Labour MPs and peers signed an open letter demanding a deportation flight of 50 Jamaican criminals, including paedophiles, murderers, drug dealers and violent thugs, wasn't allowed to take off. And among those who signed the letter, you've guessed it, Sir Keir Starmer MP, then the leader of the opposition. And even in November 2022, Sir Keir Starmer said the Labour Party would never diminish the contribution made by migrants.
Is part of our national story. Always has been, always will be. And the Labour Party will never diminish the contribution it makes to our economy, to public services, to your businesses.
So there we have it, more positions than the Kama Sutra. And do we really trust the Labour government to sort out the migration chaos? Well, joining me now in the studio to discuss this is GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White, the Labour Member of Parliament for Makerfield, Josh Simons. I'm still joined by the columnist Sam Ashworth-Hayes from The Telegraph and the Head of Campaigns at the Good Growth Foundation, Theresa Bishop. Welcome one, welcome all. Mark White, let's start with you. Quite the change of position from the Prime Minister today, year after year after year, saying the precise opposite of what he said today.
Yeah, I mean, there's been quite a bit of chatter. Is this really been brought about by how well Reform did in the local elections just recently? The fact is, the White Paper has been in the planning for months. I think it's fair to say that maybe some of the language around it has been toughened up as he talks about the danger of this becoming an island of strangers. There's no doubt that would be language that would be perfectly comfortable for Nigel Farage to utter. In terms of what this will do, I think in bringing the numbers down, it will have an effect. There's no doubt about that. But how large that effect will be, I have my doubts that it will be much more than 50, 60,000, added already to a downward trajectory that, whatever the current government says, was put in place by the previous government. Those were the restrictions on student visas, bringing family members across, upping the threshold for skilled workers, and of course also ensuring that those in the care sector, for instance, wouldn't be able to take family members across as well. That has added to a downward trajectory of almost 1 million in 2023 net migration to 728,000 to the year to last summer. And then this time around, it'll be down a good chunk again. So it's going in the right direction. But I think the real stark and unpalatable truth for many of these politicians who are having to try to do what they can to tweak away at this and bring the numbers down is that we're still talking very, very significant numbers and way, way north of what David Cameron used to tell us ad nauseum on so many occasions about bringing it down to the tens of thousands. We're going to be nowhere near that territory after all this has taken effect. We're probably still going to be 400,000 or so, I would imagine, net migration each year. It's better than it was, but it's still a big old chunk of people.
Let's bring in now Josh Simons, MP for Makerfield, Labour Party MP. Meanwhile, during Sir Keir Starmer's speech today, 600 illegal immigrants rolled in on the boats, hardly sending out an endorsement that this plan was having any impact whatsoever. Josh, let's be absolutely honest. Rishi Sunak couldn't stop the boats. Sir Keir Starmer hasn't smashed the gangs. Nobody can really control immigration, no more than King Canute can control the tide. Why should anybody believe anything Sir Keir Starmer says, particularly when he's had so many different positions in the past?
Yeah, well, I think, Martin, your question's entirely fair, and it's right to hold politicians to account for the track record they've had over the last, not just 4 or 5 years, but actually decade. What I would say is that, in my opinion, as a newly elected MP, the entire political establishment in Britain has had a repeated and constant message from the British public, which is that they want control over our borders. That means no boats. That means no illegal migration through undocumented routes. And
they've been ignored by everybody.
And they've been ignored, exactly. They voted for it, it hasn't happened. They voted for it, hasn't happened. The most shocking record of all is 2019 to 2023, when legal migration numbers quadrupled.
The Boris Bulge.
Dwell on that. The Boris Bulge, Boris Wave, as some call it. So I think it's true for the entire political establishment. Now, Keir Starmer has changed the entire Labour Party and won a historic election. If Keir Starmer knows, as Prime Minister, and he heard it last Thursday, I should add, that if we don't deliver on controlling our borders and on a managed migration system that is led by one thing and one thing alone, which is the national interest, we will not win election again.
So, here we go. The real Sir Keir Starmer being exposed. Nothing to do with what he believes in. It's what he believes he has to do, believes what he has to say to stay in power. This is a cynical power grab. He doesn't believe in controlling borders. He's repeatedly said in the past he doesn't believe in controlling borders. He wants freedom of movement. He might sign a freedom of movement deal with Brussels next Monday. So this is just him saying what he believes he has to say to not get wiped out.
Well, to be fair, Martin, I think it was 3 conference speeches ago, his whole argument was that control is a social democratic Labour Party thing. And let's just wind back a little bit. Part of the problem that this white paper today is tackling, in the middle of the 20th century, mining in my constituency, working class people in Britain were trained to do jobs that they were paid fairly for and that contributed to the national interest. Part of what has happened in this country is we have shifted to a model where working class people are repeatedly undercut by foreign workers, and simultaneously UK governments do not invest in them and their skills. We have to change that, and that's what this does.
Josh, I entirely agree. I have to interrupt you there because we have some breaking news here, and it's this. A blaze has broken out at a home that's understood to belong to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Emergency services were called to a residential home in northwest London in the early hours of this morning. No one was injured in the fire, and an urgent investigation has now been launched. Now, a cordon remains in place on the street this afternoon, and a spokesperson for the Metropolitan Police said officers attended the scene. Damage was caused to the property's entrance. Nobody was hurt. The fire is being investigated and cordons remain in place while inquiries continue. Dramatic breaking news. Just to repeat that for you, if you're joining us on GB News. And that is, a blaze has broken out, a fire has broken out at a property understood to belong to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Emergency services were called to a residential home in northwest London in the early hours of this morning. No one was injured, mercifully, and the fire and an urgent investigation has now been launched. A cordon remains in place on the street this afternoon, and a spokesperson for the Met says that officers have attended the scene. Mark White, I believe you've got a line for us on this.
Well, I think the most significant line there that does raise a bit of concern is that the fire was confined to the entrance, which does perhaps suggest that there may have been some kind of outside cause of this fire. Now, this being a family home, it doesn't necessarily qualify, I would imagine, for the kind of diplomatic protection police officers if Sir Keir Starmer is no longer living there all of the time. Of course, in Downing Street, that would be the case. If he goes back to that home, that absolutely would be the case. So he would get round-the-clock police protection. But properties that are linked to an individual, even a high-profile individual, don't necessarily have that same continuous 24-hour police guard around it. And again, if that is the case, someone has been able to get to that house and cause some damage, that will be of great concern, there's no doubt.
And just come back quickly, Josh Simons, to you for their reaction. We don't know the cause of this yet. We don't know, but I think Mark White there makes a key point. The fact that the entrance seems to indicate it might be something external, perhaps nefarious. We don't know. But nobody wants anything like this to be happening to any elected representative of any political stripe if there is malicious intent. Utterly contemptible.
Totally agree. Whoever, if it turns out that there was malicious intent, those people should be hunted down and locked up. I was really shocked after I got elected that soon afterwards, security people came around the house and installed a fireproof mail bag that now sits on our... So my kids are going to grow up with this massive box attached to our letterbox. And they ask me all the time, you know, Dad, what's that for? Yeah. We've got to have honest, blunt conversations in politics. but totally and unequivocally separate that from ever being violent to politicians.
And let's just say at this stage, we can't speculate. We don't know that this was any kind of attack, but nevertheless, that's the breaking news there. A fire at the entrance of one of Sir Keir Starmer's properties in northwest London. Of course, bringing much more news. Mark White is checking out as we go. Any fresh lines will bring that to you. Until we know more, let's not speculate and bring back to the conversation about migration. You were making the case, I think, a very, very good case for the fact a lot of people in Britain during the Brexit years, a lot of people watch this show, do feel that in particular the British working class has been hollowed out, has been sold out, has been undermined, has been undercut for decades by cheap foreign labour. Can you guarantee today on GB News that that's going to stop?
For as long as I'm a member of Parliament, that is what I will be pushing for. Both because my constituents want me to, but also because I think it's the right thing to do for the strength of our country. And today's white paper, it's really important to say this for your viewers, I think, that is what today's white paper is about. It's actually not about small boats and it's not about control. It is about working class people in this country having the investment they need in their jobs and their skills and their futures, not simply going for the easy option and undercutting with cheaper foreign labour. And that is the single purpose of this white paper that the government is publishing today.
OK, great stuff. Sam Ashworth-Hayes, we get to you at long last. We've had Donald Trump, we've had breaking news. You've been waiting patiently. You've got some numbers for us. You've had a look at the potential impact this may have on decreasing migration. What have you got?
Yeah, so if you just take the element of restricting skilled worker visas to those with degree level qualifications or above, around half of the skilled worker route to migrants coming to the UK last year were below that threshold, so that'd be about 27,000 people, give or take. And then they each sort of tend to bring about a similar number of dependents. So perhaps you get sort of 50,000 reduction through that. You'll get sort of further reductions through closing the care worker route. But I think the really interesting thing about this is the rhetorical shift is absolutely massive. And it's one that it's much costlier for Labour to make than for the Conservatives, because the Labour voting bases tends to be more in favour of migration than the Conservative base has. So it'll be really interesting to see how they build on this and how they sort of perceive the policy measures that will be needed to make this work within the UK economy.
OK, let's bring in now my other guest, very patiently waiting, Teresa Bishop, Head of Campaigns at the Good Growth Foundation. We're talking in a moment's time about the potential for signing a youth mobility scheme with Brussels next Monday, a week today, a week from the day Sir Keir Starmer has promised to clamp down on migration. There could be potentially a route to letting millions of under 30-year-olds into the UK on 3-year working visas.
Yeah, so I think in the research that we've done, it's quite clear that there is a nuanced view on immigration. Now, we polled the public on what their top 3 red lines are when it comes to reopening any relationship with the European Union, and freedom of movement was not in their top 3. What was in their top 3 was allowing EU immigrants to get access to public services. So what we're proposing is a capped youth mobility scheme, one that does not allow...
How big is the cap?
The cap is at 100,000. It does not allow for immediate access to NHS and other public services. There will be a surcharge. And this is the sort of policy that the public actually agree with. They are happy to give that opportunity if they are also given that opportunity in return, but they have to be clear rules around it. So there has to be a cap, there have to be surcharges, but this is a different story. When it's a scheme like this, compared to the announcements that we've seen today, the public are very clear on what they want to see.
OK, and you've been waving me there, Josh. You've got a quick moment. What do you want to say on that?
It's just a last point to link this to the point you were making earlier, Martin. One of the most important things this paper is about is that island of strangers point that the Prime Minister is making. And I think many of your viewers, my constituents, certainly feel that that can sometimes be the case.
Yeah.
And if you think back to, we were talking about mining, if you think back to that post-war generation where, there were migrants, and the thing that they felt above all is that they love this country. They will defend it to the hilt. And that is what we need to expect to be the case now. Speaking the language of this country, understanding its history and its values should be a precondition for becoming a citizen of this country, and we should hold British citizenship up as a special, desirable thing, the precondition for which is very straightforward. You have to love Britain. OK, superb stuff. Thank you very much, Josh Simons, MP for Makerfield. Thank you very much, Teresa Bishop. Been awesome. Sam Ashworth-Hayes. Of course, Mark White, thank you very, very much. Now, stick with us because Sir Keir Starmer wants to rejoin the European Union via the back door. Well, as we just said, he's meeting with European leaders next week, a week today. Will it turn into a surrender summit?
That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News, Britain's News Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:28 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, it's just been confirmed a short while ago that a blaze has broken out at a home belonging to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and GB News' Home and Security Editor Mark White is with me. And Mark White, you've got a breaking news line for us on this.
Yeah, Downing Street have commented on this, and again, I think to me it points to this being potentially a deliberate incident, because Downing Street say the Prime Minister has thanked the emergency services for their work. The incident, they say, is subject of a live investigation and we won't be commenting further. Well, clearly, if it was an accidental fire within the premises, it just would not be the subject of a live investigation unless there was something suspicious. And the news that we were getting that this house in northwest London, 4-bedroom house, the fire was situated at the front entrance, again just rings alarm bells. Also the time. The fire brigade were called at just after 1 o'clock, 1:11 this morning, and managed to bring that blaze under control by 1:33. So again, very late at night at the entrance to a property. It does look as though it might be a deliberate act at play here. No confirmation from that from the Metropolitan Police other than to say that they are investigating the incident. We should say the Prime Minister and his family don't live at this house at the moment. £2 million property. We understand that it may be rented out at the moment. So that would indicate people do live there. And clearly that is a much more serious incident if people are living there. But because the Prime Minister's not living there anymore, he's in at Downing Street, you won't have that diplomatic protection group 24-hour police detail guarding those premises, a bit like Rishi Sunak's house up in Yorkshire, which was targeted by eco-activists in June of last year when they broke in, got onto the roof and caused some minor damage there. That was a house that wasn't guarded by the police at the time. I think this is the same situation in northwest London.
OK, Mark White, thank you very much for that statement there from the Downing Street and from the police. Thank you, Mark White. And plenty more on that story, of course, as it comes to us throughout the rest of the show. Moving on, as Keir Starmer pledged to slash immigration significantly, next Monday he's tipped to surrender to Brussels and introduce a youth mobility scheme. Now, that could mean that millions of low-skilled 18 to 30-year-olds flood into Britain on 3-year work visas, the precise opposite of controlling immigration. Well, joining me now is the Deputy Leader of Rejoin EU, Richard Morley. Richard, welcome to the show. So, youth mobility scheme, presumably that's the kind of thing you would welcome.
Oh, absolutely. I think Keir Starmer is definitely heading in the right direction on rejoining the EU.
But that's not what people voted for. And how does a youth mobility scheme a week ago from today tally or chime or even be in the same postcode as everything that Sir Keir Starmer has said today about significantly clamping down on immigration, taking back control, cutting immigration? The youth mobility scheme is the precise opposite.
No, you must remember that the youth mobility scheme is one which gives us temporary, short-term immigrants, not long-term residential immigrants. It's a completely different issue. Moreover, although you say that's not what the people voted for, well, of course, in 2012, the people didn't vote Labour, but we've still got a Labour government. The point is that the voting patterns of people do change. It's a long time ago now that people voted for Brexit. And the circumstances have now become substantially clearer, and I'm quite convinced that the vast majority of people in Britain are now very dubious about Brexit, and a good number of them would wish to rejoin.
Are you really? Because today, the Prime Minister, who was the champion, the leader of the People's Vote movement to get a second referendum to cancel Brexit, is sounding very much like Nigel Farage. I'll put it to you, Richard Morley. You're the one who's completely out of touch. You're like one of those Japanese soldiers.
Well, Nigel Farage obviously is riding a popularist movement, and Keir Starmer is obviously trying to get on the same bandwagon. The point of the matter is, Martin, that Britain has substantially suffered since Brexit, and all the economical reports substantiate that. Bloomberg, for example, have independently analysed that Brexit is costing us $100 billion a year. And that is a substantial amount of money to lose to the economy.
That famously pro-Brexit outlet. Come on, what about COVID? What about lockdowns? What about the fact we've seen impacts across the entire European body? Is that because of Brexit?
Well, COVID did have an effect, but we've got to look at our position in relation to other countries, all of which suffered COVID in exactly the same way as we did. The point is that our economy has substantially shrunk since Brexit. Whatever the cause of that is will be argued about, of course, but it's not just the economy that has suffered. It's also the way that small businesses, which are a very substantial employer in Britain, have been forced to retreat specifically because of Brexit, not because of COVID. Small businesses, 20% of them have ceased trading with Europe altogether because the red tape involved, the extra costs involved in getting the stuff over there, customs duties, etc., has simply made it no longer viable for 20% of British companies to export to Europe. And that is a big factor because British small businesses employ such a huge percentage of the workforce. And
yeah, they do.
And
what they could do, Richard Morley, is employ British workers. Even the Prime Minister today agrees with that. It seems Richard Morley perhaps rejoin EU is the one out of step with the British public. Thank you very much, Richard Morley. Always a pleasure to have your company. Loads more still to come between now and 5 o'clock, including next, we're crossing to Downing Street as our GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, has all the latest lines from lobby on Labour's so-called immigration crackdown. That's next, but first, here's your latest news headlines, and it's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. Your top stories this hour. As you've been hearing, some breaking news. Police are investigating a fire at Sir Keir Starmer's North London home that broke out in the early hours of this morning. London Fire Brigade attended and the fire was extinguished. The Times newspaper reporting that no one was hurt in the overnight incident, which caused damage to a door. A Downing Street spokesman has said that the Prime Minister thanks the emergency services for their work. The incident is subject to a live investigation and they won't be commenting further. We'll bring you more on that as we have it. Some more breaking news this afternoon. A Bulgarian spy ringleader has been sentenced to more than 10 years in jail at the Old Bailey this afternoon. 47-year-old Orlin Rusev has been sentenced to 10 years and 8 months in prison for the spy conspiracy. 6 Bulgarians who spied for Russia on an industrial scale for more than 2.5 years are currently being sentenced. More updates on those sentences as we have them. The Crown Prosecution Service said that the group used a series of false identity documents for their operations, including pretending to be accredited members of the media and photographers, as well as law enforcement and health workers. To the Middle East, where in more breaking news, Hamas has released Israeli-American hostage Eidan Alexander today, paving the way for a possible return to ceasefire talks from the war-torn enclave. The Palestinian militant group said it is ready to be involved in negotiations to reach a comprehensive and sustainable ceasefire agreement. Hamas has also urged the Trump administration to pursue efforts to end the war in Gaza. Again, more on that as we have it. And the Home Secretary has vowed to slash at least 100,000 visas as Labour hints at a further migration crackdown. Yvette Cooper is due to speak shortly in the House of Commons to unveil the full details of the government's immigration white paper. The Prime Minister promised a significant fall in net migration, saying without controls on immigration, we risk becoming an island of strangers. The proposal includes things like a 10-year citizenship wait and a crackdown on foreign care workers. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Labour can't be trusted to protect UK borders, and Reform UK leader Nigel Farage accused Sir Keir Starmer of making promises he can't keep. Those are the latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3210 and €1.1878. The price of gold is £2,452.34 per ounce, and the FTSE 100's at 8,608 points.
Done. My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two few spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing. But with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually, it's going to be a fine outlook.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Expect delays on the M25 anti-clockwise between junctions 25 and 24 due to road management until 6 this evening. The M60 clockwise at junction 24 is experiencing delays until around 5. In Derby, the A38 northbound between the A50 and A5111 has 30-minute delays, expected to lessen by 6:02. The eastbound M8 slip road to the A804 is closed for essential works, follow signed diversions. And on the trains, there are disruptions on the Elizabeth line and Greater Anglia routes to and from London Liverpool Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Welcome back. Your time is 4:41 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, a powerful new campaign. It's magnificent. It's raising funds to buy every Metropolitan Police firearms officer a cup of coffee. Now, you might think it's a small act of support, but it's got a huge message, and it's this: you are not alone. And it comes after Officer NX121, cleared of murder in record time, was still ordered to face a misconduct hearing, sparking outrage and plummeting police morale. I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by the former police officer who runs this crowdfunder, Oliver Lawrence. Oliver, welcome to the show. It's a magnificent crowdfunder. It's a genuine act of human kindness at a time where people think there's not a lot of it left. Tell us about what inspire you to start it and what the reaction has been, how people can get involved.
Yeah, Martin, first of all, thank you ever so much for GB News for having the Public Safety Foundation on your programme to talk about Operation Coffee Break, a scheme that we decided to run a couple of weeks ago after, NX121, after the IOPC directed that the Metropolitan Police hold a misconduct inquiry. We recognise that morale within policing is at an all-time low. There is no other important entity within policing than our firearms officers that front the most dangerous of individuals in our society. They front up when we're running in the opposite direction. And all we want to do is to send a clear message that you're not alone, that we are with you, that we support you. And importantly, we thank you for the risks that you take on a day-to-day basis, knowing that at a moment's notice, they may have to make a decision which will be life-changing, both for the people they come into contact with and for themselves and their families. So we're making a statement, we're getting behind them, and we encourage all the community to support us in a cause of just a small gesture to say thank you ever so much for the efforts and the challenges that you take on behalf of all Londoners.
And Oliver Lawrence, you can see on screen now, Operation Coffee Break. There it is, your crowdfunder. Your initial target is £6,500. You are on 5,605. I'm sure that will start to go up shortly. A cup of coffee won't make a huge amount of difference, but it's not about that, is it? It's about letting the police officers know that the public support them at a time where the top brass seems to do the opposite, and even the politicians, dare I say.
Martin, we're under no illusion that policing faces very significant challenges right across the United Kingdom, putting London to one side. But equally, we know that to turn that around, we need to increase morale. We need to encourage the amount of people that are applying, not only for the police, but for specialised positions. What worries us is that if we continue to see the decline in morale, we'll see officers vacating these roles and a significant decline in applications coming forward. So we've mobiled up with partners like the Mobile Coffee Bean, who are helping us deliver the logistics behind this. And we're hopeful, and we've written to Sir Mark Rowley at the Met to hopefully jump on board and equally support us. And sadly, we haven't seen much support from some politicians, but equally very kind of the initiatives such as Nigel Farage sending out a message over the weekend to encourage people to get behind our cause. But this is about supporting, as you say, those brave men and women and reaching that target of £6,500 so we can just send a small message of reassurance and support.
And Oliver, I just don't think people understand, you know, the huge pressure, split-second decisions that can change people's lives forever. And we hear it with the SAS, we hear it with former operatives in Northern Ireland, we hear it with armed police officers now. So often when things are contentious or things go wrong or there's an investigation, the immediate position seems to be to suspend officers, suspend service people, put them under the prism of confusion, and this can have a lasting impact on their lives, their careers, their mental health and their well-being.
These incredible brave men and women, you know, understand the accountability that's required if they have to make the decision to ultimately discharge that firearm to neutralise a threat which threatens both Londoners and people across the UK. They understand that and they're open to that. Where we have a huge bone of contention, particularly at the Public Safety Foundation, if one of our officers engages with a terrorist suspect or a terrorist offender in the UK and they neutralise that individual, they're quite rightly held heroes. But they're not just dealing with terrorist-related matters, they're dealing with serious, violent, organised criminals who refuse to engage. There's intelligence, they're carrying firearms, they're involved in nefarious activities, and these are the people that they're coming into contact with day in, day out. And notwithstanding, our firearms officers attend thousands upon thousands of critical incidents every year. The rate of discharging of firearms in policing the UK is absolutely minimal when you compare it to European standards.
It's superb stuff. Operation Coffee Break, what a great idea. The best of luck to you. People can get involved. Go online to that crowdfunder. Operation Coffee Break, thank you very much. That's Oliver Lawrence. Thank you very much for joining us today on GB News. Now, if you're in search of some holiday sun this year, then here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Spring showers are possible across many areas of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Some of those could be heavy at times, maybe with some hail, thunder and some strong gusts of wind. It will also be generally quite breezy around coastal districts, but further inland away from the showers there will be some drier conditions prevailing and sunny spells managing to poke their way through at times. And into the outlook period as well, we will still see some of those sunny spells to enjoy at times.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
He's not just the first Brit, he's the first European, is that right, to win the Grand Slam?
To win the Grand Slam. See, the Grand Slam is something that's never really mentioned because it's so rare to win all 4 majors. Well, this is what I was going to head to. Can you get closer, get back into we can hang out with Rory for a while?
Rory would be our mate.
He would be great. I think he'd get on great with us.
I tell you what he is. He's the most ordinary guy. You meet him. I remember one night, he's good company.
Yeah.
And I always thought that there was a weakness with him, that he was too friendly with too many people.
Yeah.
I mean, people I'll not name, but I remember, people at the height of their career and they're watching games or they're watching... I remember once with the snooker tournament, walking up to a player and saying, incidentally, when this is over, could I... And he just said, shut your mouth.
You are kidding me.
Yeah, he turned
Is he alive or is he dead?
Oh, he's very famous. And he said to me, never... And he was wearing sunglasses and he took them off. He said, never, ever interrupt me when I'm watching snooker. And, you know, but I learned something from that,
yeah,
you know?
But come on.
I mean, it's rude, but you can kind of understand that some people need to kind of psychologically protect them. I don't know. And it must be frustrating sometimes when people interrupt you. But on the other hand,
but for me,
be a
Mary,
nice
there's
guy.
no except bad
no,
manners.
I know.
There's no excuse for bad manners.
No, that's right.
At least you go, look, sorry, but...
I'm just concentrating at the moment. Can you speak to me later or something like
please,
that?
will you shut up?
But you were saying yesterday, I mean, he's now, you know, one of the most famous, one of the most successful people from Northern Ireland. I think there was even a suggestion he should do an open-top bus tour.
Well, that was me yesterday.
Oh, was it you?
I think
Okay.
absolutely should, yeah.
Why?
Eamon...
Not today, it's very...
Eamon will be driving the bus, and there'll be Rory there.
I have a bus with my picture on it.
I know, yes, I know. That's what they want. They just have the Eamon bus, Rory on the top, nobody on waving.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 5 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now let's cross now straight to Downing Street and speak to GB News' political editor Christopher Hope, who's fresh out of lobby. Chris, tell us, you're in political lobby there, Downing Street. Any fresh lines, any reaction from the government on the earlier immigration announcement?
Yes, hi Martin, welcome to Downing Street. There was an extremely ominous thunder rolling over the sky above me for the past 10 minutes. It's about to completely tip down with rain, I expect. But yeah, we heard a lot there from the Prime Minister's spokesman just now, the first lobby of the week. I asked particularly about what Jo White told GB News earlier. She talked about the issue of a net migration target, maybe 100, bringing it down to 100,000 by the next general election. Look at my shoulder. With me now, behind me, by the way, the PM of Sweden has been visiting. He may emerge at any point. But earlier, Jo White gave this challenge to the Prime Minister.
This is a Prime Minister who has moved significantly from that leftward leaning to reflecting the people of my constituency, and he's done that since he's come into office. He knows that if he does not talk to or with the people of Bassetlaw, he will not get elected again. So I welcome what he's saying. I trust and believe in what he's saying, because change needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. And the legislation that's been put forward today, it's a white paper, so it's the first step, is the way to do that.
What net migration figure is acceptable to you at the next election? Give us a figure.
Well, you'll give me a big challenge. I'd like to say 1 for 1, but I don't think we'll achieve that by then. So let's say 100,000.
100,000 a year net migration. They want that in the red wall. That's 47 MPs, and Jo White, speaking there to GB News, is the convener. Also in the lobby briefing just now, there's a fire's broken out in Sir Keir Starmer's home in North London. The PM spokesman tells us this: the Prime Minister thanks emergency services for their work. We cannot comment any further. We're waiting more comment and statements from the Met Police. That is wanted watching develop through the evening at GB News. Also commentary on this fake video, Number 10 says, of apparently a white rapper in front of Keir Starmer, Merz from Germany and Macron from France, saying there's nothing to add on this fake news. Of course, online speculation about a cocaine rap. Nothing to add on that fake news. We don't know who's behind this disinformation, Number 10 says. We've seen things before from Russia and malign actors, but again, no investigation, and Number 10 is brushing it off. But they're saying these images circulating widely on social media today are fake news.
Yeah, Chris, I've seen those videos. It really looks like a napkin and a cocktail stick. I think this is a lot of artistic licence. But on a serious point, Chris, any notion of an investigation of a fire at a politician's premises, very concerning.
very, very concerning. No help at all from Downing Street. They're letting Scotland Yard take the lead. So we'll be reporting statements from the Metropolitan Police through the evening. One to watch. Of course, it should be said that the PM's home is now here. He's at number 10. He's based here. We don't think his family are there again. But big concerning news about this fire at Sir Keir Starmer's house. The Met Police are now investigating, and we'll bring you all the updates through the evening.
Thank you very much, Chris Hope, GBNews political editor, and you're about to leg it back here to join me for the top of the 5 p.m. See you shortly. Make sure you've got your umbrella ready in case the heavens do open. Talking of which, it never rains, but it pours for the government. And Yvette Cooper is about to speak in the Commons about the immigration clampdown. That's coming live next here on GB News with me, Martin Daubney. First, it looks like rain. Here's your weather forecast.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing, but with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually, it's going to be a fine outlook.
Just across the board. Now let's cross now live to the House of Commons where the Home Secretary Yvette Cooper is speaking.
Confidence. Fourth, that the rules must be respected and enforced, including tackling illegal and irregular migration and deporting foreign criminals. And finally, that the system must support integration and community cohesion, including new rules on the ability to speak English and the contribution that people can bring to the UK. Our United Kingdom is an interconnected and outward-looking nation. Our history and our geography mean that for generations, British people have travelled overseas to live and work, and people have come to the UK to study, work, invest or seek refuge. And British citizens draw on heritage from all over the world, and that has made us the country we are today. Through many years, our country's been strengthened by those who've come here to contribute, from doctors in our NHS, entrepreneurs founding some of our biggest businesses, to those who came through generations to work in jobs from coal mining to caring for our loved ones to serving in our armed forces. People often coming to do some of the most difficult jobs of all. And our trading nation, global leading universities and strong historic international connections mean migration will always be part of our country's future as well as our past. But that is exactly why immigration needs to be properly controlled and managed. And it hasn't been. Overseas recruitment shot up, while training in the UK was cut. Lower skilled migration soared, while the proportion of UK residents in work plummeted. In 2019, 10% of skilled work visas went to non-graduate jobs. By 2024, that had risen to 60%. Employers were even given a 20% wage discount if they recruited for shortage jobs from abroad, actively discouraging them from paying the going rate or training here at home. Education institutions were allowed to substantially expand the number of overseas students without proper compliance checks. Social care providers were encouraged to recruit from abroad with no proper regulation. So we saw a serious increase in exploitation, deeply damaging for those who came to work here in good faith, and also for other workers and responsible companies who were being undercut. The rules and laws that are supposed to underpin the immigration system were too often ignored, and by 2024, returns of people with no right to be in the UK were down over a third compared to 2010. And of course, criminal gangs were allowed to build an entire smuggling industry along our borders, undermining security and creating a crisis in the asylum system. Madam Deputy Speaker, later this year we will set out further reforms on asylum and border security and on tackling illegal and irregular migration, building on the new counter-terrorism powers in the Borders, Security, Asylum and Immigration Bill before the House this evening, because no one should be making these dangerous crossings on small boats. But this white paper sets out how we restore that control to the legal migration system so it is sustainable, fair and works for the UK. First, we're overhauling the approach to labour market policy, so for the first time we properly link the immigration system to skills and training here in the UK. So that where there are skills or labour shortages in the UK, immigration should not always be the answer to which employers turn. Because that long-term failure to tackle skills shortages, bring in proper workforce planning, to get UK residents back to work, or improve pay terms and conditions here at home, is bad for our economy as well as for the immigration system because it undermines productivity and growth. So we will lift the threshold for skilled worker visas back to graduate level and above, removing up to 180 different jobs from the list, increasing salary thresholds. Access to the points-based system for lower skilled jobs will be limited to areas on a new temporary shortage list, including jobs which are critical to the industrial strategy, but access will be time limited. There must be a domestic workforce strategy in place, and employers must be acting to increase domestic recruitment. We will expect workforce strategies to be drawn up more widely in other higher skilled areas too, where there is over-reliance on recruitment from abroad. And to support that work, we will establish a new labour market evidence group, bringing together skills bodies from England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, the Department for Work and Pensions, the Industrial Strategy Council and the Migration Advisory Committee to gather and share evidence on shortage occupations in different parts of the country, and also highlight the role that skills, training, pay and conditions and other policies can play in improving domestic recruitment so that increased migration is never again the only answers to the shortages the economy faces. This new approach means we also need to act on social care. The introduction of the social care visa led not only to a huge increase in migration, but also to a shameful and deeply damaging increase in abuse and exploitation. When proper checks were finally brought in, 470 care providers had their licence to sponsor international staff suspended, and 39,000 care workers were displaced. Overseas recruitment for care jobs has since dropped, but it must not surge like that again. And it's time we address the domestic issues, including a proper fair pay agreement to show respect to people who do some of the most important jobs in the country. We are therefore ending overseas recruitment of care workers. It will continue to be possible to extend existing visas and to recruit displaced care workers and people already in the UK with working rights on other visas. Alongside the new visa controls and workforce strategies, we will also increase the immigration skills charge paid by employers who recruit from abroad by 32%. That money will be invested through the spending review in supporting skills and training here in the UK. And we will ensure that Britain continues to attract the brightest and best global talent by enhancing the visa routes for very high-skilled individuals, top scientific and design talent, and people with the right experience to support growth in key strategic industries. Madam Deputy Speaker, international students bring huge benefits to the UK, supporting our world-leading universities and bringing in top talent and investment. But we will strengthen compliance requirements and checks to prevent visa misuse. And currently, too many people on the graduate visa are not doing graduate jobs, so we will reduce the unrestricted period from 2 years to 18 months, and those who want to stay will need to get a graduate job or a skilled worker visa, so we ensure they are contributing to the economy. And just as our rules on work visas are based on the contribution we expect people to make when they come to our country, we will consult later this year on new earned settlement and citizenship rules that apply the same approach, extending the principles of the points-based system, doubling the standard qualifying period for settlement to 10 years, but with provisions to qualify more swiftly that take account of the contribution people have made. And because the ability to speak English is integral to the ability for everyone to contribute and integrate, we will introduce higher language requirements and new language requirements across a range of visa routes for both main applicants and their dependents, so family too can work, integrate and contribute. But the system for family migration has become overly complex, with policies increasingly developed around case law in court decisions rather than a coordinated framework set out by Parliament. So we will set out a new, clearer framework to be endorsed by Parliament, including clarifying how Article 8 rules should be interpreted and applied to prevent confusion or perverse conclusions. We'll review current community sponsorship schemes that support recognised refugees and continue to take action against trafficking and modern slavery. And we will shortly appoint a new Windrush Commissioner to ensure the Windrush lessons continue to be learnt and the Home Office makes sure its standards are upheld. But rules must be respected and enforced across the board, so we will also bring in stronger controls where there is evidence of visa misuse. We are rolling out e-visas and digital ID, including better use of technology to monitor when people are overstaying on their visa or to support the increase in illegal working raids. Since the election, we have increased returns and we will go further. Those who come to our country must abide by our laws. So we will develop new procedures to ensure the Home Office is informed of all foreign nationals convicted of offence, not just those who go to prison. So we can also revoke visas and remove other offenders in a wide range of crimes who are abusing our system. Madam Deputy Speaker, already we're reducing the number of visas being granted this year, and updated figures will be published before the end of the month. Already we're increasing returns with over 24,000 people in the first 9 months, the highest 9-month period for 8 years. The impact of the changes to skilled worker visas, care worker visas, settlements, students and English language is expected to reduce visas by a further around 100,000 a year. And in addition, the new workforce strategies, immigration skills charge, family and asylum reforms will further bring numbers down on top of that. And as the Prime Minister has said, where we need to go further to restore a sustainable system, we will. Madam Deputy Speaker, throughout our history, Britain has been strengthened by people coming to start new businesses, study at universities, contribute to our cultural and sporting excellence, and do some of the toughest jobs in our country. But to be successful, effective and fair, our immigration must be properly controlled and managed. This white paper sets out how we will restore control, fairness and order to the system, how we will continue to bring net migration down, and how we will turn the page on the chaos and failure of the past. I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Home Secretary for advance sight of her statement, not that it was necessary given the extensive leaks and pre-briefing. Now, the Prime Minister claimed this morning that all of a sudden he wants to control immigration. I must say that came to me as something of a surprise. The Prime Minister seems to have undergone a miraculous conversion. He has apparently repudiated everything he has ever believed. Or perhaps the Prime Minister is doing what he always does, saying whatever he thinks people want to hear at any given point in time. Perhaps the Prime Minister sees his minus 36% approval ratings, and this paper is his desperate response. Because, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we know what the Prime Minister really thinks about immigration because he has often told us. The Prime Minister once described immigration law and border control as racist. He signed a letter opposing the deportation of dangerous foreign criminals, including murderers and rapists. He pledged he would reintroduce full free movement of people, and he sermonised enthusiastically about the benefits of migration. He even said the Yarlswood Immigration Removal Centre should be closed down. Perhaps the Home Secretary can tell us if she'll be following the Prime Minister's advice on that one. So given what the Prime Minister really thinks about immigration, it is no surprise that in 2025, this Labour government has presided over the worst start to the year in history for illegal immigrants crossing the English Channel, up 30% since the election last year, and the worst start to a year ever under this Labour government. So it's also no surprise that this plan is so weak that it barely scratches the surface. On its very first page, it seeks to create a false impression. It says visa applications, and the Home Secretary repeated this a minute ago, saying visa applications are 40% down since the election, implying that is somehow down to this government. Why are visa applications actually down by 40%? It is because of the changes made by the last government, which came into force in April 2024. And from the previous peak, net migration is already forecast to reduce by around about 500,000. And if the Home Secretary is now all of a sudden so keen on reducing migration, will she explain why she suspended the Conservative plan to increase the family visa threshold to £38,000? It was due to come into force last month. Will she tell us when that change will now be introduced? Now, the truth is, Madam Deputy Speaker, this plan is weak and it will have little impact. The Home Secretary admitted on Laura Kuenssberg's programme yesterday the measures will only reduce net migration by 50,000, just 1/10 of the impact of the previous Conservative changes. The honest truth is that we need to go much further than this paper does. Immigration needs to come down a lot more. And under new leadership, the Conservative Party is taking a new approach. Well, you can vote on this later if you're so keen. High immigration has put pressure on housing. It has put pressure on public services, on social cohesion, and on the economy. Because mass low-wage, low-skill migration actually undermines our economy's productivity and costs other taxpayers money, because low-wage migrants consume services which cost the Exchequer more than they pay in tax, particularly where there are dependents. So we need to go much further. And that is why, later today, the House will vote on 2 Conservative proposals as amendments to the Borders Bill, which I can see members opposite are very excited about the prospect of doing. The first of those amendments will create a binding annual cap on migration to be set and voted on democratically by this Parliament. It will allow full democratic parliamentary control over those migration numbers, deliver complete transparency and ensure immigration levels are drastically reduced. I can see the Immigration Minister talking enthusiastically from the front bench. I assume that means she'll be supporting this measure. And Madam Deputy Speaker, secondly, we will vote on an amendment to repeal the Human Rights Act from all immigration matters. Not just tinker with Article 8, as the Home Secretary says. This will stop foreign criminals and others with no right to be here from abusing human rights laws in UK courts, including Article 3. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I have a very simple question for the Home Secretary. I'll try anyway. If she is really serious about controlling immigration, will she vote later on today for the immigration cap, and will she vote to repeal the Human Rights Act for all immigration matters?
Home Secretary.
God, Madam Deputy Speaker, I must have missed a bit of the Shadow Home Secretary's response. The bit maybe at the beginning when he apologised to the House and to the country for his party's policies that quadrupled called net migration in the space of just 4 years. He tells us his concerns about the level of migration. It was his party that is responsible for that huge increase in net migration. And I must have missed the bit as well, where he confessed that from the point at which he became an immigration minister in 2020, when all these policies were introduced, to the point at which the Shadow Justice Secretary finished being Immigration Minister in 2023, net migration rose from 170,000 a year to 870,000 a year. But I must have missed that confession and that apology, because that is what the Shadow Home Secretary should have done. And frankly, until he admits his failure, until he apologises for the damage, the chaos that he and his party caused, frankly, no one is going to take seriously a single word he says. And he refers to visa changes that were made before the election. I would say we supported changes that were made by the Right Honourable Member for Braintree, but he had to reverse some of the changes that the Shadow Home Secretary made when he was an immigration minister. And as for caps, the White Paper provides for caps on low-skilled migration on the temporary shortage list. But his targets and caps are as meaningless as all the other ones that his party introduced when they were in government. Indeed, let me quote from the time of the Conservative government's reforms that caused a lot of these problems. I especially thank the Home Secretary for removing the annual limits on work visas and on international students. I lobbied for both. That was the current leader of the opposition. So the idea that this will have anything to offer is like people who burgled your house and then turn up the next day and offer to sell you a dog. If they are serious about making the changes, if they are serious about tackling small boats, frankly, they should vote for our counter-terrorism powers to tackle the smuggler gangs that repeatedly he and the other right-wing parties have voted against. That's not serious. This government is.
Florence Eshalomi.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I am proud to represent a diverse and vibrant constituency, Vauxhall and Campbell Green, a place where so many people from around the world have chosen to make their home, a place where so many people contribute to our community day in, day out. Since this announcement, Madam Deputy Speaker, I've been contacted by several constituents who are currently on a work visa and looking at their path for a way for indefinite leave to remain. They are understandably worried, Home Secretary, about where this uncertainty leaves them. They're worried about their future plans. One even told me that they are worried and they're considering leaving the UK because their settled status here is under jeopardy. So can the Home Secretary please outline whether this policy applies to people who are already living and working in the UK, or will it just be to new visa applicants?
Home Secretary.
Well, thank the honourable friend for her question, and she is right to say that there are people working in all kinds of jobs across the country, contributing to our economy and to our communities, who have travelled here from all over the world, and that was hugely important. We will set out further details of the earned settlement and citizenship reforms later this year, and we will consult on them, so there will be plenty of opportunity for people to comment on and consider the detail. But it is important that we have extend the sense of contributions and the points-based system to those reforms as well. We have also said that we will maintain the current 5-year route for those who have come on a dependence visa, on a family visa as well, as part of maintaining families.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson Lisa Smart.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Immigration is personal to all of us, whether we're immigrants ourselves, the descendants of immigrants, or just benefit from the skills, the talents, or the cultural richness that immigrants bring. For me, I'm immensely proud that our country took in my nan, aged 18, when she was fleeing the Nazis in 1939. And I am hugely grateful that the senior surgeon who did my dad's kidney transplant operation brought his skills and talents to our country, having been born elsewhere. And yes, the Conservative government made a total mess of our immigration system. Their chaotic and dishonest approach of making and breaking headline-grabbing targets shattered public trust and left the system in tatters. The line I agree with most in the government's white paper published this morning is that the immigration system must be fair and effective. What the Conservatives left behind was nowhere close to either. Change is needed, and that means rebuilding an immigration system that works for our country and our economy while treating everyone with dignity and respect. And of course, that must be coupled with a clear plan to make it easier to recruit British workers to fill these vacancies instead. And I'd welcome more details from the Home Secretary on how her government will achieve this to ensure these changes don't have unintended consequences for our economy and in particular for our health and social care systems. Will this include finally implementing the Lib Dem proposals for a higher carers minimum wage to reflect the skill level really involved in caring professions? We also need to move away from the chaotic chopping and changing of immigration rules that we saw under the Conservatives. So will the Home Secretary provide further clarity on when these changes will be brought forwards, including a clear timetable for any changes to visa rules, so that employers and workers and their families that we're talking about today can plan for their future?
Secretary. I thank the honourable member for her points, and she is right that we need to boost the training and skills here in the UK alongside the stronger controls. On social care, we will introduce a fair pay agreement. It is really important that those vital jobs in social care, looking after our loved ones, are properly respected. And we're also on some of the timetable issues. Some of these will require primary legislation and further consultation. Others will be brought in more swiftly. For example, some of the changes to skilled worker thresholds will be brought in more swiftly. But to give her an example of the approach that we want to take, something like construction workers, for example, will be on the temporary shortage list because it is clearly crucial to growth in our economy. However, it has to be alongside respect for this workforce strategy, and that is why the Education Secretary has set out proposals to train 60,000 more construction workers here in the UK.
Sean Davies.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This Labour government inherited disorder at the border, a broken system where criminal gangs, dodgy employers and fake colleges too often decided who came into this country. Will the Home Secretary give the courts the powers to deport, the universities and colleges the resources to train our young people, and have a system that encourages the brightest and the best to come to this country and rebuild Britain?
Secretary. My honourable friend makes an important point. We do want to make the procedures easier for deportations of foreign criminals, for increasing returns of those who have no right to be in the UK, and that's why we will be changing the procedures that we have inherited. He is also right that we need to ensure that the best international talent is able to come swiftly to the UK, and that's why we will be setting out further reforms for the highest talent routes as well.
Sir James Cleverly.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In her statement, the Home Secretary said that the visa changes she is putting in place will reduce net migration by 100,000 people a year. The House of Commons Library has figures that say the visa changes that I brought in would reduce net migration by 300,000 people per year. So would she now concede that her proposals are only a third as effective as mine?
Home Secretary.
I would just say to the right honourable member, nice try. He was in the cabinet that massively increased net migration, that pushed the numbers up. The fact that he then belatedly had to attempt to restrict and reverse some, but just some, of the changes that he and his colleagues had previously endorsed and put before the country, and the fact that he still never tackled this fundamental approach that the Conservatives had, which was this free market experiment, this encouraging people to recruit from abroad, never training, never supporting the training and the conditions on training here in the UK, means that fundamentally he was just desperately trying to close the door and deal with problems far too without any proper strategy on actually understanding why it was that actually you need those links with skills, links with training in the first place. That's that's why what we have to recognise is the important way in which migration has always supported our economy and will continue to do so. But it has to be properly controlled and managed. He didn't do that.
Gian Wara.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Tories promised net migration in the tens of thousands and left it at about 1 million. Reform's predecessor, UKIP, promised that Brexit would fix immigration. That didn't work out, did it? So the Home Secretary is absolutely right to take a reasoned, evidence-based approach to fixing the immigration system. And I welcome her emphasis on the contribution that immigrants make, and I know that our National Health Service workers in Newcastle from different backgrounds and those starting up great businesses in the country must still feel welcome as a consequence. But she's also right to critique our country's dependence on immigration for growth and the impact that has on productivity. And can she say a little bit more about how she will break that link?
Home Secretary.
Oh, my honourable friend makes a really important point, because if the response too often to any labour shortages or skills shortages is simply to turn to migration without actually addressing what are the causes of those skills or labour shortages, which might be around pay and conditions, it might be around lack of skills and training, it might be around lack of workforce planning, might be a whole series of different things. If we don't actually address those causes, then all that happens is that productivity here in the UK falls. So alongside ensuring we can get the skills that we need, ensuring that we can benefit from international talent, we have to tackle those domestic training and skills failures and make sure that we invest in those. And that is what the immigration skills charge and the increase in that immigration skills charge will help us to do.
Andrew Mitchell.
Surely, Madam Deputy Speaker, the most immediate challenge, which is enraging our constituents, is the illegal migration across the Channel, where her government has kicked away the tough deterrent measures which they inherited from the last government. So are there not three critical measures which she should be taking? The first is to work incredibly closely with all our European partners. The second is to need to look very hard at the international conventions, particularly the Geneva Convention from 1951. And thirdly, and in many ways most importantly, to work on the upstream problems at source. Increasingly, people are migrating in very large numbers from the Sahel in North Africa, fleeing from violence, starvation and extreme poverty. Does she accept that she and her European counterparts must lift their ambition and move towards a modern-day equivalent of a Marshall Plan if we are to solve this long-term and increasingly very serious issue?
Home Secretary.
Well, I do actually agree with the honourable member that we have to do more upstream to tackle some of the causes of some of the dangerous journeys that we've seen. We clearly need to act on the criminal smuggler gangs who are exploiting people and undermining our border security, and that's why the legislation tonight on counter-terrorism powers is so important. But we do also need to do much more work with the European partners. We have been working with France, for example, to get France to agree to change their rules so that they, for the first time, will start to intervene in French waters to prevent dangerous boat crossings. But I also agree with him on the importance of the Sahel and working upstream. We have established a new joint unit between the Home Office and the Foreign Office in order to do some of that prior work that he refers to.
If I'm going to get as many members as possible in this afternoon, we're going to need pithy questions and short answers, please. And a masterclass in that from the Chair of the Education Select Committee, Helen Hayes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I represent a constituency which is...
Okay, and that was the Home Secretary, Beth Cooper, there in the House of Commons, reiterating earlier the statement of intent from the Labour Party to crack down on immigration, detailing the clampdown on student visas, detailing the clampdown so there must be the ability to speak English, going to degree level for education, really a repeat of what was said earlier on. Then Chris Philp, the shadow Home Secretary, wasted no time in steaming in I think Mr Philp has been listening to GB News, because he said the Prime Minister Keir Starmer claimed he wants to control borders. Quite the conversion from a man who's always believed in open borders and freedom of movement, echoing a lot of what we've been saying on the show here today. No problem, you can have those lines on us, Mr Philp. The Labour government, he said, has presided over a record start to the year for any government in terms of illegal immigration. It's entirely true to say. Some 600, Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, told us today, 600 rocked up to Dover on the precise day the Prime Minister was talking about a clampdown on immigration. But of course, Yvette Cooper was able to leap to her feet and steam straight back, saying, I must have missed the bit where Mr Philp apologised for quadrupling legal immigration on the Conservative watch, rising from 175,000 to 780k. Would you like to apologise for breaking all of your promises? He sat down with his tail between his legs. Then the Liberal Democrats followed. James Cleverly followed. We saw there hovering. Wanting to have his go was Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage may well get a question across. If he does, I'm sure we'll cross straight back to that. But I'm still joined in the studio by the two heavyweights, GB News, Chris Hope, political editor, Mark White.
He's talking about our weight again, Chris. I really do resent that remark.
I'm not fat-shaming you, gentlemen. Talking about the massive calibre of your talent, your knowledge base, your expertise. Let's start with you.
What I'm tracking right now, watching what's happening in Parliament, is the reaction from the left to the remarks earlier from Sir Keir Starmer at that breakfast time press conference. Don't forget, to remind viewers, he said there that our country is becoming an island of strangers, or risks becoming so, and also there are forces that are slowly pulling this country apart. Now, the left-wing MPs completely hate this. Clive Lewis, he's been saying there's a reason human rights were made to apply universally, because when you start picking off groups whom they don't apply to, you're on a slippery slope to ... Bell Ribeiro Addy, the MP for Clapham and Brixton Hill, says it was shameful just now in the House of Commons that migrants being scapegoated in this way. The government's announcement this morning was an insult to those who have made the UK their home. These migrants aren't strangers, she said, they're friends, neighbours, family members. While Labour tack to the right, maybe where they think Reform UK is, certainly in language, if not in actual policy just yet, we'll wait and see if that delivers, the left are getting crosser and crosser.
Well, they might well do. They were crosser on the winter fuel allowance. They were crosser on the cutback in foreign aid. They were crosser on the cutback of all sorts of things, on benefits. But the fact of the matter is the electorate spoke, and they spoke resolutely loud a couple of weeks ago in these local elections. It's do or die for Labour Party. Simply is that, Chris Hope?
Martin, that is recognised. Now, I asked the PM spoken just now in the lobby briefing, what do you think of the criticism of Nadia Whittome, Sarah Owen? Number 10 say firmly, we are elected to roll up our sleeves and get on with the job. I've got a text here from Nigel Farage. You're asking when he's on. He says, trying to get in right now. So stay tuned on GB News for a Farage intervention on this statement you're seeing now from Yvette Cooper.
We've got live pictures there of that rolling debate, and of course when Mr Farage raises his hand and gets in, we'll cross back to that. I'm joined by Mark White. Mark, you were there this morning, and it was an astonishing situation where the boats were simply rolling in, the illegals. You got that amazing footage of the dinghies just rolling on the French side. Whatever they're saying about legal immigration, on illegal immigration, the farce continues.
Well, the public, as I say, don't really differentiate between legal and illegal migration. They just see too many people coming into the country. And I think, the big takeaway from today for me is that, yes, there are proposals that are being introduced by this government that will reduce migration to the country. It won't be much, though. It will be in the tens of thousands, maybe 50 or 60,000. But we're in a downward trajectory anyway for a while, at least because of the Conservative Party's policies that they implemented in the last year and a half of government, that's seeing a reduction in net migration levels. But once all of that has taken effect, we are still going to be in a position, I think, where we're not far from half a million net migration every year. And for most people around the country, they would see that figure as being far too high, and one that they can't really sustain. And it's not just the issue of the GDP gross domestic product, the actual how this impacts the economy. It's the impact it's having on communities right across the country, the social fabric that is suffering they see from all of these immigrants from different parts of the world coming into their communities, the lack of school places and GP appointment availability and alike. These are the issues that impact people day to day, and really just talking about tens of thousands here or there, it's not going to make that much difference at the end of the day.
I think you're exactly right, Mark. Why we're going to hover over this. We're still waiting for Nigel Farage to have his moment. Chris Hope just got a text from Mr Farage. He is waiting his turn. We'll get back to that, of course, very quickly.
I should explain the reason why he can't get in is the Speaker must call the main parties based on numbers and let Reform have just 5 MPs. So it's not about Farage being snubbed so much as how the Parliament operates. Very briefly, Mark is exactly right. We heard earlier from Jo White, who's the convener for the 47 Red Wall Labour MPs. I asked her, what is an acceptable figure? You said 500,000. That is not acceptable. 100,000 is, and that's where the number needs to get to.
OK, we're still going to go back to this. We're still waiting for Nigel Farage to speak. We'll cross back to that momentarily. Thank you, gentlemen, experts, as ever. But first, here's your headlines. It's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you. Your top story this hour. As you've been hearing, the Home Secretary has said that immigration has not been properly controlled or managed, as she outlined the government's immigration white paper in the House of Commons. Yvette Cooper said that the government will strengthen checks on visas to end abuse of the system, as she announced that the white paper will end the overseas recruitment of care workers. The Home Secretary went on to say that higher English language standards will be put in place for those that come to the UK. She added that the government will go further to increase returns of foreign criminals. Her announcement comes as the Prime Minister promised a significant fall in net migration this morning, saying without controls on immigration, we risk becoming an island of strangers. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says Labour can't be trusted to protect UK borders, while former UK leader Nigel Farage accused Sir Keir Starmer of making promises he can't keep. Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said that immigration is not the answer to the skills shortage, adding that the measures should reduce visa numbers by around 100,000 a year.
Impact of the changes to skilled worker visas, care worker visas, settlements, students and English language is expected to reduce visas by a further around 100,000 a year. And in addition, the new workforce strategies, immigration skills charge, family and asylum reforms will further bring numbers down on top of that. And as the Prime Minister has said, where we need to go further to restore a sustainable system, we will.
Our Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp criticised the government for record small boat arrivals this year.
The truth is, Madam Deputy Speaker, this plan is weak and it will have little impact. The honest truth is that we need to go much further than this paper does. Immigration needs to come down a lot more. And under new leadership, the Conservative Party is taking a new approach.
And breaking news this afternoon, police are investigating a fire at Sir Keir Starmer's North London home that broke out in the early hours of this morning. London Fire Brigade attended and the fire was extinguished. The Times newspaper is reporting that no one was hurt in the overnight incident, which caused damage to a door. A Downing Street spokesman said that the Prime Minister thanks the emergency services for their work, but the incident is a subject to a live investigation and that they can't comment further. We'll bring you more on that as we have it. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More from me in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3197 and €1.1880. The price of gold is £2,446.59 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 closed the day at 8,604 points.
My Claim Group sponsors the GB News Finance Report.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark, and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing. But with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales, into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually, it's going to be a fine outlook.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 20 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, we had a breaking news earlier on the show, and it's this. Police are still investigating a fire at Sir Keir Starmer's North London home that broke out in the early hours of this morning. And joining me now to discuss this, get the latest lines. I'm still with GB News' political editor, Chris Hope, and GB News' home and security editor, Mark White. Chris, let's go first to you. It's an incredibly concerning thing that should happen at all. What do we know?
Well, from the political side, not much. It's a very, very serious issue. The first issue raised at the lobby briefing, the first one of the week, with the PM spokesman and his press secretary. Now, the PM's spokesman tells us the PM thanks emergency services for their work. We cannot comment any further. I should say, I've been covering politics for 2 decades. I can never remember this happening of the PM's private home. This to happen. Now, we don't know, we're going to Mark White very shortly, but the fact that police investigating says a lot. We're hearing no briefing from Number 10. It's clearly been taken with the utmost seriousness.
Mark White, we don't know who might be behind this yet. We don't know the cause of it yet, but the nature of the police investigation, we can see those pictures on our screen there, paints a picture. This doesn't look like a faulty light bulb.
No, there's no doubt. We can have a look at those pictures again of fully clad police forensics officers at the scene itself. They don't respond like that to a chip pan fire. Yeah. You know, this is clearly an issue. The very fact that it was something that was a fire that was confined to the entrance of that building. It happened at 1:30 in the morning as well, which again highlights concerns. Chris?
Well, no, exactly. Real concerns, I think.
and the fact this would happen at all on a political watch. Do we know, you said you've never seen anything like this in all your time covering politics in terms of an active Prime Minister's house. We have seen other attacks on political residences in the past. Just go through some of the more recent ones to give us a flavour, maybe.
Sure, and we have, of course, seen politicians targeted and killed before, which is horrific. But in terms of directly attacking premises, well, we saw it actually at Sir Keir Starmer's house, that very house, in April of last year. And on that occasion, it was pro-Palestine activists who were arrested and are being prosecuted for that.
And Mark, you've got a line there, Chris.
Well, I'm just looking now. Nigel Farage has now spoken in that debate on immigration just moments ago in House of Commons, so I'll bring that to you as soon as we get it.
Great, so thank you very much. Gentlemen, thanks. We have to quickly move on and return now to that topic of Labour's immigration crackdown, and I'm joined down the line by the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control, Rob Bates. Rob, welcome to the show. Rob, you've been crunching some numbers. We've heard there there were a refusal, a resolute refusal from the Prime Minister and Yvette Cooper to give us any kind of cap, any kind of number. Chris Hope got Joe White, the MP for Bassett Law, to say 100,000. What do you think the impact of today's clampdown could be?
Yeah, so I think best case scenario, this will bring down net migration by about 100,000. Unfortunately, of course, the situation that then leaves us in is net migration running at 300,000 to 400,000 a year, and with the Labour Party having already played its hand to bring down migration. So the question then remains, what measures can they further implement to bring down that number further? Of course, there are huge problems with this white paper. The fact that they're talking it up so much really masks the underlying problems with it. There's no cap, which of course is something that is very important for us to measure the impact that the measures are having. There's, of course, nothing on the foreign students. We have a target of 600,000 foreign students at the moment to be in the UK at any one time. Nothing seems to have been done about that. They've allowed a backdoor for employers to continue undercutting British workers with cheaper, sort of discounted migrant salaries. There's, of course, then the scheme that might end up seeing us take a large number of refugees under a UN protocol as well. The graduate visa remains in place as well. So it's littered with problems. The measures that they have taken in terms of scrapping the social care were such blindingly obvious ones that any government that wanted to bring down the numbers to any extent would have had to take these ones. But that doesn't mask the fact that there are large fundamental problems with the immigration and asylum system that remain in place as a result of this white paper.
Rob Bates, a lot of people saying today, who is the real Sir Keir Starmer? Because practically everything he said today was the exact opposite he's said throughout his entire political career.
Yeah, and you see the kind of response that he's getting from his backbenchers. You see the trade unions kicking up an absolute stink as well. And I think this is probably as far as he felt it was plausible to go while still maintaining those people on board. Of course, his background as a lawyer, he's described immigration practices as racist. He's, those videos that you were showing earlier called for a resurgent argument in favour of immigration and free movement as well. So this is someone that has spent his whole life wedded to mass immigration, to open borders. This about turn is clearly a political calculation, and I think I hope the British public will see through the spin.
OK, thank you very much. That's Rob Bates, the Research Director of the Centre for Migration Control. Thanks for your time. Now, next, much more reaction to Labour's immigration crackdown with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What can you say about it? Has it lasted time? It was slayed in flame. Yeah. Was it about slaying?
No, it was an amalgamation of lots of bands that we knew. Mm-hmm. The director and the writer, Richard Longcrane and Andrew Birkin, they sent us the script as a script originally, and we said, oh, bands don't behave like this in real life. So we decided to take them to America on tour for a month. So they saw what it was like really behind the scenes of a rock band. And we told them stories of what we knew about other bands, plus ourselves, and they amalgamated that into the film. So every scene in the film is true, not to say...
Result?
fantastic.
Yeah.
Mind you, when it come out in '75, the critics were great to it, but the fans didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was too heavy duty for the fans because it wasn't a comedy film like they expected from a happy-go-lucky band like we were.
But you did that on purpose, though, didn't you?
We did it on purpose.
To make a
we
film
didn't
like
want to
all
make
the
it.
other. Dave Clark 5 had done Catch Us If You Can, Hard Day's
Oh,
Night.
that was all that. Yeah.
They were all
there were lots out there.
Yeah.
We wanted to go totally the other way because nobody expected us to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, the fans thought, whoa, what's this?
But were you worried, though, at that time? Because
Of course.
Well, hold on, maybe we've made a mistake here.
Of course. When it come out in America, they had to put subtitles on.
Oh, really?
Because they couldn't understand our accents. But 50 years on now, it's just gained momentum.
Yeah.
It's now become a real classic of the rock movie genre. It's Mark Kermode who gave it the title Citizen Kane of rock movies, which is a great accolade for us. Plus, the movie is great. The movie soundtrack is great as well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's approaching 10 to 6 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Let's cross back now to the Commons, where a short few moments ago, Nigel Farage put a question to the Home Secretary.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Home Secretary will be aware that 5 years ago I warned that if we didn't leave the ECHR and deport immediately those that arrived in Dover via small boats, that there would be an invasion. Yeah. And sure enough, I was right. Yeah. Today, a further 600 young men already today have been processed through Dover. Perhaps the odd Iranian terrorist among them. Who knows?
How do you know? How do you know?
Does the Home Secretary accept
How do you know that
their policy of smash the gangs is a complete and total failure? And if that's the case, why should we believe anything else they said?
Well, the honourable member, no one should be making these dangerous boat crossings. They undermine our border security and they put lives at risk. Criminal gangs who are organising these dangerous boats are making a fortune and profiting from these dangerous boat crossings. And that's why we need counter-terrorism style powers to be able to go after the gangs. That is the opportunity for him and his party to vote for those counter-terrorism powers tonight, so that we can strengthen our border security. Previously, he and his party voted against those counter-terrorism powers. I think we need counter-terrorism style powers to strengthen our border security in order to be able to go after those criminal gangs. Does he? Mike Tapp.
Comment a short while ago being heckled in real time by an even glummer than usual Jeremy Corbyn on his shoulder. Chris Hope.
I thought that response there from Yvette Cooper was quite serious to another politician. That shows, I think, that she is taking it seriously. The challenge for Reform UK and the Tories tonight is whether they vote in favour of counter-terror powers to help tackle small boats, or more likely oppose the plans because the government is offering them, and a big issue there. We're seeing more reaction here from the left. Florence Echelon, with the MP for Vauxhall and Camberwell Green, she's saying that she represents a place where so many people from around the world choose to make their home. Again, attacking the government for the anti-immigrant messaging.
Thank you very much, Chris Hope and Mark White. Let's join now by the writer Joyce Yang. Joyce, you've been waiting patiently to get on the line. Thank you very much. You're concerned, are you not, about the fact the Labour Party is starting to sound very much like the Reform Party?
So I think the reforms, it's like there have been so many changes happening to the immigration laws recent years. I mean, I completely understand that any country needs some measures to manage its migration level, but as immigrants, we also need the peace of mind to work out our future plans and to decide where we are staying. So I mean, the reforms just make it harder for any immigrants to plan for their future. But what I want to emphasize is that, or what angers me more, is the language Keir Starmer and the Labour Party used in their speech and in the white paper. I think it's very sanctimonious and it's full of bullshit because
Careful. We're not allowed to use words like that on television. Beg your pardon.
That's all right. So he used the phrasing, the country is becoming an island of strangers. I mean, I'm working full-time for a British company right now, and I've written for many British newspapers. And my partner, he is a British citizen. And given all of this, I'm still a stranger to you. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, all of these reforms, the purpose is to make immigrants integrated into this society. But what is the standard? I feel like all of these politicians, they say us as strangers when we come here, and we're always
George Yang, thank you very much for joining us and waiting patiently. We have to leave it there. We simply ran out of time. But at 6 o'clock, it's Jubes & Co, the queen of primetime TV. Jubes, what's on your menu?
Hello, Martin. It is great to be back. Well, immigration. Personally, I've lost count of what plan number we're actually on, but will this plan be the one that fixes it all? Also, leaked documents suggest a UK and EU security pact. Hold on. I thought rumours of EU armies were all far-right nonsense. I want to talk about Brexity things. Have you got any of those lurking in your house? And ask, have the police lost their way? I've got Zia Youssef and the Labour MP Jonathan Brash. Hopefully you too. Grab a cuppa. I'll see you in a sec.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Hit and miss thundery downpours will continue for the rest of the day, easing after dark and then dry with clear spells for many overnight and into the start of Tuesday, although still some showers around on Tuesday afternoon. The low responsible for the thunderstorms is moving north and then moving south during the next 24 hours, leaving behind a legacy of showers and thunderstorms through central parts of the UK, but they do tend to fade after the sun goes down, so lengthy clear spells then emerging, although always the chance of a few showers continuing in one or two spots, particularly through Wales and the Midlands. Some low cloud persisting around the coast of North and East Scotland and North East England. That will creep inland overnight. It will be there first thing Tuesday before eventually retreating back to the coast. So plenty of sunshine breaking through across parts of central and western Scotland. I think a cloudy start perhaps for Glasgow and certainly for Edinburgh, but it's not going to last. We're going to see the sun start to return through the morning. Plenty of sunshine for Northern Ireland, for much of England and Wales as well. Just some patchy cloud towards the southwest. Any showers tending to be very few and far between first thing, but with the sunshine getting to work and with temperatures rising through the morning and early afternoon, we will see further showers developing, particularly through parts of South Wales into the south of England, away from the immediate south coast. And again, these will be hit and miss, but where they do occur, could see some very heavy rain, hail and lightning. Away from the showers, another warm day to come, 25 or 26 Celsius possible in places, but it will feel cooler where we've got that low cloud persisting around the coast of northeast Scotland and northeast England. That's going to again creep inland overnight and before eventually fading back towards the coast during the course of Wednesday. And actually it's going to be a fine outlook.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Drivers on the M8 eastbound face delays due to the junction 18 exit slip being closed for roadworks, with diversions in place. Bridge maintenance on the M48 westbound between junctions 1 and 2 has caused closures with traffic signs displayed. In Cumbria, congestion on the A66 westbound is causing 30-minute delays. The M6 northbound in Walsall is completely closed due to an accident. The M40 southbound in Oxfordshire is also experiencing delays due to a collision. And on the trains, there is major disruption on the Greater Anglia services to and from London Liverpool Street. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you